So if you'd all just take a minute, turn off the blowers. We're going to go ahead and play the national anthem. There's a flag in the ceiling right behind me. So let's just take a moment to honor our country.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
All right, thank you, everybody. We're going to get... championships. So just be aware that there might be a few extra minutes in between your classes. Again, you can go to Ringside Live and check out the streaming so that way you can make sure you're getting up to your class in the right time. All right, we've got class 1, Dorset ewes in the ring. This is a single class for this breed. We need our speckle-faced ewe lambs come up and check in with Brian in the holding area.
Well, good morning, everybody. And before I get to talking about the kids and the stock right here, I'd like to say a big thank you to the Cheyenne Livestock Expo for allowing me the opportunity to come out here and do something that I'm passionate about, do something that I love, that's sorting junior stock shows. And so I'm ready to have a really, really good day. I'm ready to have a blast sorting the stock and the kids. And man, what a powerful way to get us started off in our Market Doe show. Man, our class winner is a very, very unique critter. That is a high-headed, beautiful skulled type of an animal who's slim and pencil-like in terms of her neck. She runs directly uphill, and then with that, she's so unique in terms of her look, and yet I get my hands on her. She's aggressive and up to code in terms of her touch and tone. What a fantastic way to get us kicked off. I will look forward to seeing that goat again. I do think it gets awfully close between 2 and 3 in my mind. Ultimately, I side with the whiter skeleton, rounder bodied goat who works more natural spread, dimension, and power up high. That doe is awesome just in terms of her depth of body. She has the advantage in terms of foot size and feature at the surface, and then truly what separates them from me, she's just a little bit better in terms of the reach out of her rear skeleton. I like that doe in that regard. She's maybe not as tricky through the front third of her skeleton as the doe that's going to surface. She's maybe not just as unique in terms of her chest floor and breastplate, but that is a good goat, no doubt. Love this goat in terms of her skin and her hydration. That's a fresh shape working out of the backside of her shoulder ahead of a really square loin edge, and with that, she's still really attractive in terms of the way that she ties her neck out of the top side of her shoulder. I guess the front 2/3 of that goat to me are really intriguing. I want to yank her down in terms of her rear rib and flank, though. I want to give her just a little more flex to her hind leg, but man, that is a good goat, no doubt. This goat right here has an advantage in terms of size and scale and performance. I like that this goat is basic in terms of the way that she's constructed. She's sound and comfortable in terms of her movement. As I compare her to those ahead of her, I need that goat to be just a little grislier in terms of her muscularity. She's not just as mean and powerful in terms of her punch and her power, but that's a good goat you should be ultra proud of. Great way to get us started for high-quality critters. Give them a big round of applause if you would. This is going to be a good day.
Well, good morning. Awfully excited to be here in Cheyenne and work through your sheep and your goats and work with your young people here over the next few days. What a way to get things started here in our Dorset class, and just one. So I think our champion in reserve will come out of this particular class, and I think a very, very interesting top trio of females that I think initial impression hit me very, very hard. But all three of them, I think, represent a lot of differences. I think at the end of the day, this view right here, you want to talk about, I don't care what color they are. They could be green or purple. That thing right there is going to look awesome standing in front of that backdrop over there. Her build and just the way her skeleton's put together, her height, the shoulder, her just shallowness in terms of where her sternum's at in relation to her underline progression. And then you want to step here and study one from the 3/4 angle and study her in terms of her progressional width. Extremely impressive, still fresh and awesome in terms of her touch and tone. I think at the end of the day, my biggest critic on her, I wish she wasn't a white sheep and maybe just wanted to get up here and go and just give the young lady her neck and her front end, because I think if she looks like that in motion, then I think it's a no-brainer, and I'm excited to see where she sets as the day rolls on. I think it's really close in my mind between 2 and 3. I think at the end of the day, this one that is going to go ahead and be reserved is just more my speed in terms of freshness, in terms of look and mobility. She's taller shouldered, she's neater in terms of the way her neck ties right there at the top side of her shoulder, and I appreciate her in terms of her length of hip set to her hind leg. You ask these things to get out and go in motion. I love her in terms of her athleticism and just looseness of build there to her lower skeleton. She just doesn't have enough. As we get right here in terms of her pin and stifle, she's not as neat in terms of her underline progression as the one that wins, but I love her athleticism. This one here that's going to go ahead and be third, I think is the most unique one in this particular class in terms of a breeding standpoint. Her forearm, her feature, her moderation, her bulk, and just her added width and muscularity, I think are very, very impressive. For me, though, we just got to loosen that one up. She's too straight off either end. Got to make her taller shouldered. Got to make her neater in terms of her look. One here coming next is one propped up from the side, tremendous in terms of her look. She's tall-shouldered, love her in terms of her underline. I think another one's really fresh and good in terms of the way she feeds. Right there on the backside of her blade and her shoulder, really round and progressive in terms of her body. For me, though, she'll want to get just a little loose in terms of her spine. She's just protruding just a little bit there in terms of her breastplate. I didn't think had the far-reaching pieces as the ones ahead of them. Sheep here that are going to round out. We just got to balance them up a little bit better, give them a shot more punch and muscle, but an awesome class and a really great way to get things started. If you guys would, give them a nice round of applause.
I need Class 3 market does to be making your way up to the holding area.
All right, we need our Southdown breeding ewes to start getting up here and getting checked in. We're going in with our speckled face breeding ewes.
Class 2 of a market doe show over here continues to up the ante, and man, the top pair of these goats right here are very, very good, and they're different in terms of what they represent, but man, both incredibly high quality. To me, the one that surfaces is just a little wider skeleton and a little sounder off either end of her skeleton. That is a monstrous legged critter who runs directly uphill. She is round and robust in terms of her rib and body design, and then with that feeds such an aggressive shape ahead of a big, broad, burly upper hip, and yet still, as I set that goat in motion, she's more durable and of her hind leg utilization. She's actually longer and leveler to the top side of her hip, and she wants to better maintain her top line as she goes. Great way to get us kicked off. Again, I am excited to see that one come out. This one right here on the standstill does some wacky things, young lady. That thing ties her neck right out of the top side of her shoulder. She is so short-bladed and shallow-chested, and yet her underline progression is absolutely gorgeous. Get my hands on her, and she is perfectly square in terms of her loin. I love that goat on the standstill. I wish that she remained just as true in terms of her skeletal quality and is on the go. She wants to collapse in terms of her knee. She wants to deviate ever so slightly out of the backside of her shoulder, and what truly separates her from the goat ahead of her, she gets just a little shorter out of the top side of her hip and a little more discombobulated as she goes directly away from me. But young lady, that is an incredible goat that is presented to the absolute nines. I too look forward to seeing that one back out here. That is a good goat to be second. This one right here, the top side of this goat's skeleton is absolutely awesome. That is a big burly back shape that is awesome in terms of the turn to her upper rib shape. She is big pin, she is square loin, and yet still that goat runs directly uphill. That goat has the right kind of essence there from the side. I just wish that while she runs uphill, I wish her chest plate was just buried in her just a little bit more. She wants to get a little deeper there in terms of the base of her breast. She wants to get a little more prominent to the base of her shoulder. She's not nearly as elegant in terms of her neck length and girth there to her neck, but man, that is a good goat that has a lot of muscularity and a lot of power. This goat right here, I thought of the remainders, was just the next one that came closest to emulating that show ring caliber look. She's the soundest of the remainders, and yet that goat is still really hydrated in terms of its handle. I think that goat still has the right kind of look up front. That goat has the advantage in terms of just height of shoulder, shortness of blade, and shallowness of chest. Even to the one ahead of it, to me, that goat just needs more punch and power as we stand in behind the lineup, wants to get just a little bit narrower in terms of its upper pin bone. That's where this doe has just a true advantage. Truly a big muscled, big jumped kind of a goat that's awesome in terms of her pin width and lower stifle shape. I think that goat has plenty of voopty down to its lower leg and stifle. To me, that goat wants to read just a bit more vertical about the angle of its blade and its knee. Not nearly as unique and dynamic in terms of its image there from the side, but that goat is truly a powerful critter. I like that goat's muscularity and cutability, no doubt. This goat right here, again, size, scale, and performance are all in this goat's favor. That goat actually has the advantage in terms of skeletal quality to a few of them ahead of him. Unfortunately, again, I want to see that goat just have a bit more terminal shape. I want to see that goat just a little bit rounder in terms of her rib. But man, great way to round this out. Congratulate those exhibitors on a heck of a job, and give them a big round of applause if you would.
Another awesome class here on our U side, and again, I think one that just a dominant kind of a class winner. In my mind, just so hard to poke a hole in. This thing propped up from the side. She's attractive, tall-shouldered. Love where her neck ties the apex of her blade, just where her sternum set within to her skeleton. Progression of underline, and then right here, love her in terms of just the shape to her body, the shape to her upper hip and pin set, the flare she's got in terms of her stifle and her glute muscle. I thought just an awesome place to go ahead and start. I think it's a really, really tough decision right here in 2 and 3, as I think both these are really, really different. I think the longer we study and the more that I just try to break them down and ask myself, I think which one's a little farther reaching, which one I think just reads a shot more genuine. I think that's the young lady's sheep right here. This thing up high is impressive. There's probably not a bigger, broader backed one that's rounder in terms of their body than this particular ewe. Just for me, as we get right here to this view, she's just too hard in terms of her flank. If we can get her belly to drop or pick her up in terms of her sternum just a little bit, make her underline just a little bit more unique, I think maybe the top pair can get close really too, because you watch this thing come at you. She's pried apart in terms of her chest and knee. She leaves you square and opened up to the surface, and then she is so impressive from her loin forward in terms of her shape up high and her body. To me, we just got to balance that one up just a shot better, give her just a shot more pin to match the extra bulk she's got right out of the backside of her blade. But I thought she was more genuine than the ewe here coming next. This one right here in motion I absolutely love in terms of her cadence and her presence. She is high-headed and neat looking. I love her in terms of her head. She's big in terms of her feature down low and loose constructed. You get right here though, and that uses just the flattest of the initial top trio in terms of body, in terms of shape, and in terms of muscle. She comes at me too closed up, leaves me too closed up, and for one that's as neat looking and high-headed and motion, you get her propped up right here. She's probably the lowest there at the point of her shoulder, but there's pieces and parts in that one that I really, really like. You just want to put a blindfold on and talk about shape and compositional correctness and hide quality. The young man's sheep right here was tremendous. She is a big pin. She is juicy behind in terms of her stifle and her lower leg shape. And propped up from the side, she gives you a really good look. She's shallow, tall shouldered, neck ties where it needs to. Just in motion, she's too long in terms of her shank. She'll throw her hind leg underneath of herself and just read a little hard in terms of her lower body. But there's pieces within that one from a muscularity standpoint that I think are really high quality. Young lady here is going to round out her top 5. She's doing a bang-up job getting this one shown and presented. Stout featured. Love her in terms of just her bulk there to her rib cage and the shape she's got up high. We just got to make that one just a shot fresher over her full rib. Make that one just a shot neater looking. But a really nice class. If you guys would, give them all a nice round of applause.
I keep starting each class by saying just how good these does are out here in our market doe division, and they keep rolling out here. So I think it's fun to be able to come out and talk just about how much quality there is at the top end of each one of these classes. These two goats right here are real good, but that one to me just distances herself in terms of skeletal width. That doe is awesome just in terms of her underline, where her thoracic sits back to her rear rib and flank is absolutely gorgeous. And then, man, as I get on top of that doe, she is awesome just in terms of the width and spread ahead of a bigger, broader, fuller upper hip. And then I get off to the side of her. That thing is dynamic, not only from a market goat perspective, but man, I think you could throw that doe over on the breeding side and do some damage as well. Great way to get us kicked off in that regard. This doe right here is higher headed. She has the advantage in terms of extension and truly just an advantage in terms of elevation up front in relation to our class winner. That doe is dynamic in terms of her image from the side. She's gorgeous in terms of her shape. Unfortunately, as I study that goat from behind, she's not nearly just as big and broad in terms of her upper pin bone. Where I like her in terms of her extension, she actually might read just a little bit longer back, and that gives me kind of a mental image that she's maybe just a little harsher in terms of her rear rib. And then between our class winner and this goat, I just wish this goat was a little sturdier in terms of the usage of her hock. But man, I think that's an incredibly high quality goat with the right kind of shape and look from the side. I think that's a great second place goat for us, no doubt. This goat right here, I thought it was challenging between 3 and 4. This goat to me is a little rounder ribbed, a little truer in terms of her foot size and feature at the surface, and that allows for her to have just the advantage in terms of product spread and mass up high. That goat is really bold in terms of the turn to her the upper portion of her body. With that, she's maybe pushing just a little extra chub. She is just a little softer in terms of her body wall. She's a little plainer and deeper to the base of her chest and a little thicker in terms of the girth of her neck. But man, that goat has a lot of power. That goat has a lot of roundness of rib. This goat to me is probably just a little trimmer in terms of the way that she's assembled about her forerib. She is just a little higher in terms of the way that she ties her neck out of the top side of her shoulder. And the true advantage in my mind is that she's just a little longer out of the top side of her hip. To me, while I like that goat in terms of her image better than the goat that would end up in third, she needs to be bigger in terms of her foot size and her feature. I set that goat in motion, and I just want to see that goat relaxed about the angle of her shoulder and knee. I want to see that goat just a little more comfortable and stable in terms of her movement. But man, that is a good goat, no doubt. Painted up goat that's going to round us out. Man, one that I really enjoy from a foot size and feature aspect. I get my hands on that goat, and she's actually surprisingly square in terms of her loin. She's awesome in terms of her jump muscle. Again, as I compare her back to those ahead of her, she needs opened up in terms of her forerib and her mid-body. I want to see that goat leave me with more terminal shape and merit. But man, that goat has a lot of positives. One I'd be proud to drag around myself. Congratulations to those exhibitors. Awesome job.
Right, we need our first and seconds from those first couple of market doe classes to check in with Pam. On the sheep side, we need class 4, our first class of naturals, to come check in over here in the holding area with Colton. I'd like to take a minute to introduce our market goat judge. He'll also be sorting showmanship after this. Mr. Nate Brookshire. Nate is from California. He now resides in Champaign, Illinois. Nate attended Lakeland College and Western Illinois University, where he competed on the livestock judging team and obtained a degree in ag business. He then pursued a master's in ruminant nutrition at the University of Illinois and is now the livestock judging coach and an instructor. Nate enjoys judging stock shows, raising club lambs, and spending time with his family and friends. Let's thank Nate for coming here and helping sort through our goats today.
As these kind of off-breed influence ewes keep coming, and these purebred ewes, every time I feel like we land on a class winner that's awfully special, it's awfully dynamic, and really hard to replicate and make. This thing right here for a Southdown, what she can do and some of the pieces that she has are very hard to do. This thing propped up from the side to be that tall-shouldered, that neat underlined, and have that long and skinny of a neck, and still, as you roll around around the backside of her. Good in terms of her forerib design, the roundness she's got there. So progressive in terms of her width. She's right. She's not giant in terms of her pin. She's right. I love the shape of it. I love the texture to her muscle there to her stifle and her lower glute muscle. I wish she'd maybe just get up and grab a gear just a little bit. She wants to be just a little almost lackadaisical in motion and just a little slow. I think if we could get her to grab a gear and just get her to spook and get her to look like this in motion in terms of how unique she presents herself up front, then I think we've got one that's tremendously special. I think still very, very high quality, very, very hard to replicate. Looks high end, looks high rent, and looks expensive. That's the kind of livestock that we're going to go ahead and land on. Young buddies right here, you've got a really, really good sheep. She is awesome down low in terms of her structure. She is big formed and stout footed, and she is so loose built. I love her in terms of just her looseness and her mobility down low. You get her propped up from the side. Still paints a good image for me, though. She'll want to get just a little loose in terms of her spine. She doesn't have the extra shape and texture. She's probably just a little more forward in terms of where her blade and breastplate sit within to her skeleton. And so in return, she doesn't present herself just as unique, just as tall and neat at the point of her shoulders or class winner. But I think in terms of feature, just structure, looseness of build, moderation, and body shape, you've got a very, very nice one. This sheep right here, I think, is very interesting. There's pieces and parts that I think are very good. In my mind, I think just a little skinny, just a little immature in this particular class and setting. An emotion, I love her in terms of the way her front skeleton's built. Really neat. She comes out, her cadence and her presence is awesome. A ewe that's tremendous in terms of her freshness from a composition standpoint. You just get right here. She didn't balance up as good as a two directly in front of him. Want to drop her down in terms of her flank, and then we get right here, and she just doesn't have as much in terms of just body, shape, and power. But I think pieces, I think parts in there, I think long-term values. If you continue to feed on that one, there's quality within that particular sheep. Again, I think another one that's got some really interesting pieces and parts. This one might be the freshest and best touching one in this particular class, just in terms of shape and texture. Right there out of the backside of her blade and her shoulder. Young lady does get her propped up here from the side. She's tall-shouldered and skinny-necked and flat-backed. Just for me, I thought just a little dingier in terms of her hide. I think that throws her off. And then you get right here, again, I thought one that just couldn't rival the ones in front of her in terms of forerib design and just width there through her chest and her lower skeleton. But like, again, pieces and parts that are really nice. I have the two sheep here that we're going to go ahead and round out with. Both of them just need to be stoutened up, changed in terms of build, structure, and flexibility. But again, an awesome class, and another really awesome class winner up top. If you guys would, give them a really nice round of applause.
Get into our Market Division drive, and man, what an incredible set of livestock that we have in front of us. And man, I always like to try and break down each one of these drives. I want you guys to know my thought process as well, but I am really, really stoked about the front lineup. I think the seconds are very, very good as well, and I think there's actually goats that maybe didn't make it back out here that still have a ton of quality. Still be very, very proud to own if I had them myself. Going through class by class, man, this Class 1 winner came out of the gate and punched me in the mouth. That thing is high-headed. She is gorgeous in terms of her outline and in its silhouette there from the side. Relative to her size, she is just as wide and opened up maybe as any of them. That goat is awesome in terms of the tone and texture to her muscularity, and she's sound and comfortable down low. My question is, man, she's at a disadvantage from a weight perspective. It's easy to look cute when you're maybe just a little bit littler, but I think that goat is very, very high quality, very, very sporty. The one that was second in that class was really round-bodied, really opened up, had plenty of spread, mass, and dimension up high. To me, read just a little rounder off either end of her skeleton as well. This goat that came out of Class 2, man, again, that thing just comes out here and kind of says, hey, Nate, wake up. We're here to play. Man, that thing is monstrous in terms of her foot size and her feature. She is gorgeous in terms of her presentation. That thing is bar none the freshest and the most up to code in terms of the touch and tone out of the backside of her shoulder. And then as I set the goats to lead, man, that one is just as sound and comfortable in terms of her skeleton as any. She runs directly uphill and has that, high quality, high rent image from the side. I'm a big, big fan of that one. The one that was second in that class, maybe just a little more closed off in terms of her knee, maybe not as long and level out of the top side of her hip, but again, a really square loin edge, one of them who is real heads up and short bladed and shallow. I'm a fan of that goat as well. Our last class, man, I said that goat is just an incredibly high quality creature. She came through. She is real round. She's maybe just as wide skeletoned as any of them, and yet she's still comfortable in terms of her skeleton. She's still still maternal in terms of her image, but yet has the right kind of muscularity and power up high. I guess as I get critical on that goat, she maybe wants to get just a little lackadaisical out of the backside of her shoulder. She wants to fight the young lady a little bit, but I do think that is an incredibly, incredibly high quality critter. The one that was second in that class was picturesque from the side with a beautiful shape, didn't have just as much rumpus, didn't have just as much flexibility there in terms of her hind leg utilization. This is a challenging lineup to sort through, yet with that, I think it maybe gets a little closer between 2 and 3, and then as down the line, my favorite is my favorite. And so I'm going to put the mic down. I'm going to show you guys my thought process or my favorites in an order of 5. Congratulate these exhibitors with a tremendous round of applause. They're very, very deserving of it.
All right, we need Class 5 natural breeding ewes to come up and check in the holding area. Class 5 natural breeding ewes, come up and check in the holding area. All right, I want to take a minute to introduce our judge over here on the sheep side. Evan McLean will be sorting our ewes today and our does tomorrow, along with our sheep showmanship this afternoon. Evan McLean is from Anderson, Indiana. He grew up competitively showing livestock across the country. He owns and operates McLean Showstock, where he helps young exhibitors accomplish their goals with a multitude of species, as well as running a small number of ewes. He is a graduate of Lincoln Land Community College, as well as a graduate from Western Illinois University, where he was a member of the livestock judging team and attained a degree in ag business with a minor in animal science. Let's thank Evan for coming out here and sorting our ewes and does and our showmanship. We need Market Goat Class 5 to come over and check in the holding area. Market Goat Class 5, please check in with Pam in the holding area. We need Class 5 natural breeding ewes to check in the holding area with Colton.
What a way to start out our weather show. And with that being said, there's a pair of these things that are very, very good, and they're different in terms of what they represent. To me, the goat that's wider skeleton, rounder bodied, and more secure in terms of his front skeleton is the young man's goat that's going to surface. Unrivaled in terms of proportions and balance, that goat to me has just a beautiful turn to his upper rib shape. And then with that, I think that goat is dense and burly in terms of his hind leg. As I get my hands on him, he still is just a bit more expressive in terms of his muscularity than the goat that's going to be out here in second. This goat in second fit to the 9s and shown to the 9s as well. Longer necked and ties higher out of the top side of his shoulder. I prefer that goat in terms of his shoulder height. I love that goat in terms of his pattern and his silhouette. And then, man, talk about a fit job and presentation. That goat is absolutely dialed in. Again, from a hydration standpoint, that goat is really hydrated in terms of his loin. But to me, he's just a little washed out and a little flat in terms of his body, in terms of his forerib and body design. I wish that goat was more aggressive out of the backside of his shoulder. But ultimately, as that goat comes directly at me, I need to open him up in terms of his chest and his knee. I want to lay him back about the angle of his blade. But man, that goat is wild looking and a very, very high quality critter there from the side. This goat right here has an awesome shape up high. I love that goat just in terms of his touch and tone out of the backside of his shoulder. He's big legged up front and giant armed and runs directly uphill. I guess though he runs uphill, he's just maybe not as unique in terms of the assembly of his front skeleton. He wants to get a little coarser about the base of his blade. He needs to be challowed up in terms of the base of his sternum. And then again, as I get behind that goat, while I love his shape up high, needs to match that with a bigger caboose from behind. But man, that goat is awesome shaped. He's beautiful skinned. He runs uphill. There's a lot to like about that goat. Little goat right here, but man, rail round ribbed, awesome in terms of his pin bone, giant in terms of his lower leg and his stifle, little round out of the top side of his hip, a little mature in terms of the base of his neck for myself at this stage of the game. But man, that goat has a lot of muscularity and a lot of power. This goat's really round and robust in terms of his rib cage. For me, grabs just a little soft in terms of his body wall. I want to see that goat dialed back from a condition standpoint. He's getting a little more mature about his head and his neck and his front shoulder. But man, that goat is real round rib. This goat to me is an upgrade from a composition standpoint, more up to code in terms of his touch and his tone. He has the advantage in terms of cutability. For me, that goat needs to be intensified in terms of foot size and feature. He read just a little plain and generic there from the side. But man, great class of goats. Congratulate them with a big round of applause. Tremendous job.
We need Millsap to the holding area. Millsap to the holding area in the Junior Market Goat Show. We need Michaela Millsap. Michaela Millsap to the holding area. Your class is about to go in the ring for the Market Goat Show. All right, we need to make sure we've got our Class 5 natural breeding ewes checked in with Colton in the holding area. Class 6, you're on deck. Class 6, come up and check in the holding area with Pam for the Market Goat Show. Class 6, check in with Pam.
Well, probably just the most challenging class that we've had to this particular point, and we've got all day. And so I'm going to take my time when I think there needs to be, and just really make sure I'm comfortable with the decisions that I'm going to go ahead and land on. I think all three of these here on the top end, and I really like the one there in 4. They all represent a lot of differences. They each kind of come with something that I like a lot, and so just trying to outweigh the negatives and the positives. And I thought push comes to shove, young man's here up front, I thought just kind of blended and encompassed, the rest of them into the closest package. She's really stout down low. She's really neat in terms of her look from the side. The young man gets her propped up in terms of just proportions and balance. Then you get right here. In my mind, it's really hard to just deny her. She is the biggest, the broadest, the freshest, right there out of the backside of her blade and her shoulder, roundest in terms of her body. She's the most progressive there in terms of her width, and just reads with just the most substance and the power behind. I'm going to get critical on her. I just want to make her probably in motion a little taller shouldered, and I think we could whiz off just a little bit of the belly wool. I think it takes away from her, maybe makes her look a little more moderate and deep, but I think tremendously high quality ewe that paints the right picture from the side. Just came with the most bulk, the most shape, and the most muscularity. Young man's here coming next. In motion, buddy, you've got a cat. She is sound, and I love it. She's got a big front foot and a big rear leg, and they can giddy up and they can motor. And an initial impression, that one coming in the ring, she'll hit you real hard. She's skinny neck, she's flat backed, and just awesome in terms of her design. But I think the longer you here and the more you study her and you put her in relation to not only the sheep on either side of her, but even this one right down here in 4th, she's just the deepest up front. You want to study livestock from chine to chest, she's the deepest there in terms of her body, and I just didn't think probably just read with the same shape, the same contour and roundness there to her cage and body as the one directly in front of her. But I love her looseness to build. I love just how sound and flexible she is. This is probably just the problem child for me, because there's times that I get a really good view of this one, and I think it's a no-brainer just to call her the wicked-looking, tall-shouldered, wild underlined one that's awesome in terms of shape and composition. And then there's times that I think she'll kind of fall into too many pieces. She'll get just a little weak right there in terms of the backside of her spine and her loin edge. We can hold that up. And then as you get right here, I love her progression of width. I love the shape, just how big she is there in terms of her upper pin, the flare she's got through her stifle and her lower leg. But at the end of the day, she's just the most beat in and the flattest right there in terms of her cage and her forerib. And I thought as you studied them right here from the side, in terms of the shape there to their lower leg, she probably was just the most off from an attractiveness standpoint. But I think pieces and parts really good from her center spine forward. I think awesome and very, very impressive to the front portion of her skeleton. Right here, buddy, you've got a gamer. That thing is wicked good looking, awesome build, beautiful in terms of proportions, her balance. She's flat back, tall shouldered, neat looking, and broad in terms of her chest. You get right here, and she's just the flattest, the most closed up in terms of her pin bone. She's the flattest and most nondescript in terms of her shape and just her handle quality up high. But I love her look, love her build from the side. Just feature, just width, and just shape and power. I love pieces and parts of this one. Obviously got the big fur down low, tremendously big and broad on the backside of her blade and her shoulder, really round and just progressive in terms of her body shape. Just for me, though, just too moderate. Got to make her taller shoulder. Just got to make that one looser built down low. She wants to work up in this particular class. That sheep on down the line just needed to be changed in terms of balance. Probably just needed more feature, more shape and muscle. If you guys would, give a nice round of applause.
Good class, and to me, a challenging class, especially between 2, 3, and 4. But to me, the goat that surfaces in my mind does so because he best covers the basic fundamentals of what market livestock are supposed to be. He's round-bodied, he's big-backed, he's opened up in terms of his skeleton, and yet still fresh compositionally. And then with that goat is not only the best presented, but he still has a unique show ring look. He's still tough-skulled, he still runs uphill, and he still has the right kind of proportions. I like that goat, no doubt. This goat right here that comes out here in 2 is no doubt just a bit longer and leveler out of the top side of his hip. He's just a little more comfortable in terms of the utilization of his rear leg. Man, I think that goat has a lot of uniqueness from a look standpoint. To me, he's not as round and radical in terms of his body design. He's maybe not just as fresh in terms of his hydration or his presentation, but that goat is good. He's skinny-necked. He's awesome in terms of his look. Man, that goat just needs opened up. In terms of his body design, needs to be just a little fresher skinned as well. This pair, to me, gets really, really challenging because when this goat came in, I said, man, there's some uniqueness, but man, there's also some question mark as well. If you were to typically bring me a goat that was ran uphill, was that short-bladed, that shallow-chested, and that sound, I would tee off on that goat and just absolutely love him, especially when he's shown the way that he is, and especially when he's just as fresh in terms of his hydration and his touch as he is as well. That goat, from a presentation standpoint, is bar none one of my favorites out here, and then his look is absolutely unique. Unfortunately, as I get right on top of that goat, he wants to flatten off in terms of his body wall. He's the roundest and the narrowest in terms of his loin. I need to yank that guy down in terms of his rear rib, but that goat has a real unique kind of a look there from the side. I like a lot of things about him, just wish there was more punch and more power. This goat that comes out here in 4 has the advantage in terms of punch and power. He's bolder fore-ribbed, he's more robust with the center portion of his cage, he's bigger pinned and more dimensional in terms of his lower leg and stifle. To me, he's built just a little round off either end of his skeleton. He's a flatter pastern kind of a goat who's sharper in terms of his hock. He's more vertical up front as well. I never got that goat to just get out and trot for me, but man, that goat has a lot of terminal shape and power. This one right here follows the same kind of suit. Big backed, square loin, big hipped kind of a goat that's really good in terms of his lower crotch shape and stifle. I like that goat in a lot of ways. A little coarse about the point of his shoulder, a little thicker about the girth of his neck. I wish that goat would settle in terms of his spine and give me just a bit more of a proportional image from the side, but love the muscularity, love the power. This goat right here fit awesome. Big-legged, stout-featured, runs uphill, has the advantage in terms of size and scale. I get on top of that goat. He's a bit more mature in terms of his body wall. He needs to be opened up and freshened in terms of his fore-rib and mid-body. I grab him, and he's just as peaked as any of them up high. This goat right here has the advantage. He's got a big butterfly ditch down his back. He's square in terms of his loin. To me, I get that goat going. He wants to pull his hind leg underneath of himself. He needs to be a little bigger footed and featured. He gets just a little rounder to the top side of his hip, but big muscled goat that's awesome loin. This goat right here, deep bodied, practical, easy feeding kind of a critter, needs a little bit more show ring intangibles from a look and quality standpoint there from the side, but love the basics, love the feedability of that goat. Congratulations to those exhibitors. Great job.
We need Class 7 to start making their way up to the holding area for the market goats. We need Class 6 for the natural breeding ewes to come up and check in with Colton. Those first and seconds from the classes in the natural breeding ewe division will come back for that breed drive, so don't go too far. Once we get done with Class 6, we will do that drive. Yes, it is. Again, we wanted to thank everybody for coming and exhibiting here this over the last couple of weeks, we've had a lot of cattle coming in, and then we had a great set of these sheep, goats, and hog exhibitors bringing us really good livestock. We wouldn't be able to do it without you, and we wouldn't be able to do it without some of our volunteers. So we want to thank our board of directors, Pam Freeman, Chairman, Jefferson Keller, Vice Chairman, Scott Vetter, Dylan Freeman, Mandy Weber, Justin West, Krisha Geffert, and Whitney Darr. So thank you to those individuals for helping volunteer and helping put this show together. We couldn't do it without them. We also have a tremendous amount of help to get this building set up for both cattle and small animals, local FFA chapters, local volunteers that are longtime supporters of the ag industry, LCCC show team, Casper College show team. They all came and helped and pitched in over the last couple of weeks, so we want to thank those individuals. I also wanted to take a moment just to thank some of our sponsors. We've got Tall Grass Energy. They're a grand champion level sponsor. Visit Cheyenne. Cheyenne Kubota, they've generously let us borrow 2 skid steers and 2 small tractors over the last several weeks to move equipment, move shavings and bedding, move pins in and out of here. Those have been a tremendous amount of help. Tenco LLC, Ryan Weber, he donated his time and some of his equipment, a front end loader, a side dump, to help us move chips in and out of the building over the last couple of weeks. So we really appreciate him. Equipment Share, their grand champion level sponsor. They've provided us with power equipment and generators to allow us to provide electricity to our exhibitors in the building here. And then lastly, we want to thank Pine Bluff Distilling. Pine Bluff Distilling has been a sponsor for the last 5 years. They've been big supporters of our event. Chad is one of the owners of Pine Bluff Distilling. He's over there slinging drinks today. And visit Chad. The parents of our champion in reserve in each of these shows today will receive a bottle of whiskey, custom labeled with Cheyenne Livestock Expo whiskey that we picked a barrel out there with Chad. So we understand parents put a lot of time and energy into these projects along with their kiddos. So we wanted to do something special for those parents. Those grand champions and reserve champions will be getting a bottle of Cheyenne Livestock Expo whiskey. All right, we need our Class 6 natural breeding ewes checking in the holding area with Colton. We need Class 7 to be checking in the holding area with Pam for the Market Goat Show. Class 7 Market Goats, check in with Pam.
Well, after our class winner, I think this class is really, really hard to kind of manage and put together. I think very logical place. Go ahead and start. It's impressive that one can look like this from the side, and then you roll around to about right here, and yeah, it's just impressive to be that big back, that round-bodied, and that ginormous in terms of her upper hip and pin sets, and yet still managed to be ladylike, attractive, and neat from the side. I thought just a very, very logical place to start. Obviously, she's not perfect. There's going to be people that throw stones at her, but at the end of the day, when they picture like that and come with that much punch, it's pretty hard not to label them a class winner. That's a really nice place to start. Like I said, after that, I think it is tremendously, tremendously challenging. I think there's even sheep down there in 6 that can sit within this top 5 and maybe work up pretty high within this particular class, depending on where you lay your priorities. I guess this sheep, and she just kind of right here kind of just hits me. I think another one that from the side paints the essence and the picture that I'm after in terms of her height, the shoulder, in terms of where her neck ties, and just progression of underline. And then you get right here, and that thing is really, really impressive. I love her shape, the roundness there to her body. I mean, she looks like she swallowed the whiskey barrel for a rib cage. For me, though, to beat our class winner, got to be better in terms of the heel of her loin, and she doesn't even just replicate and match just the power behind in terms of just pin and stifle and lower glute shape. But from her loin forward, neat looking, tremendous body, tremendous shape. This sheep right here is one that initially really grew on me the longer we go into this particular class. I think there's times and views, the young lady gets her just right. She gives you a real neat look. She's got a big form, really stout and dense in terms of her feature down low. I like her propped up. In terms of her height to shoulder, I like her as you get your hands on her. She's thin-skinned and got a good kind of a touch, and she's round in terms of her body. I think we ask these things to get out and go in motion. I think that's where she goes to third. She gets just a little deeper in terms of her chest, gets just a shot more vertical in terms of the way she's built off either end of her skeleton. But that's a really, really nice sheep to go ahead and sit in 3. This sheep right here is really impressive as you get your hands on her and study her from the rear view. Tremendous shape, tremendous body, tremendous progression of width. At the end of the day, she's too loose in terms of her spine, and for just as stout, just as bold, and just as bulky as she is up high, I just didn't think the carpet matched the drapes. That one just needs more feature, needs more punch down low to match the extra bulk and just mass she's got to the upper portion of her skeleton. This one doesn't have the problem. She's got the big furry paws down low. I like that about her. I like her moderation. I like her just width and her bulk and her muscularity. For me, though, I think you set these critters in motion. I thought she just got a little low-fronted. She had just a little round off either end of her skeleton. But a tremendously high-quality class. Really good sheep here on down the line. Probably it's the deepest in terms of quality that we've seen. If you guys would, give all those kids a real nice round of applause.
Another really good class on my side of things. And again, there's been some challenge just in terms of these things being really, really good and really unique, where we're going to get this nitpicky or start to break these things apart. To me, the one who combines the most skeletal quality and along with just being as unique as any of them from a silhouette and pattern standpoint is the young ladies that's going to surface. And then on top of that, he's also the freshest and the best in terms of his progression of width. He's as big and broad about his pin bone as any of them, and then awesome in terms of his back shape. But man, that goat wins because he is the most angular off either end of his skeleton, the most comfortable in terms of his build and balance, and then with that, he is the best in terms of his skeletal quality down low. Great way to get us kicked off. These 2 goats right here get ultra challenging, and that's because I love this goat, but he scares me in some spots. That goat from his forerib back is just absolutely grizzly in terms of the touch out of the backside of his blade. He is so fresh in terms of his body wall. He is so square in terms of his loin, and then his pin bone is absolutely giant. That guy is monstrous in terms of his muscularity, and yet he's short-bladed and shallow-chested there from the side. Unfortunately, as I work from his forerib forward, he's pretty masculine about his head. He's more vertical about the angle of his blade and knee, and subsequently, he'll tie his neck just a little bit lower. I wish that he was more youthful and juvenile in terms of his head. I wish I could reconstruct him really off either end of his skeleton in terms of his build, but man, that goat is just runs uphill. He is big-backed. He is awesome in terms of his blade length. I like that goat in a lot of ways. This goat right here corrects him. This goat is sounder and more comfortable in terms of his skeleton. He's athletic. He's built awesome. He's bigger footed and stouter featured and better in terms of his chest shot. To me, he's read just a little flatter in terms of his body wall. He is just a little rounder out of the top side of his hip. That roundness out of his hip allows for him to reach and grab with more flex and comfort down low. I just wish he had a bit more muscularity. I wish he had a bit more punch. But man, that is a good built, high quality critter again, presented to the nines. Stopped and parked, man, we're cooking with grease right here. High-headed, tall-shouldered one that's short-bladed, shallow-chested, and has a gnarly back shape. Unfortunately, as I work back from that back shape, he'll get just a bit more peaked in terms of his loin. He's no bigger in terms of his pin bone than he is his back, and as that goat goes away from me, he needs reconstructed in terms of his hind leg. He needs to have more flex and comfort, and then he wants to get just a little bit narrower in terms of his twist and his lower stifle shape. But man, that goat's front third of his skeleton is awfully intriguing. Round, radical ribbed goat, and I love his skull. It's tough, it's burly, it's dense. He's got awesome foot size and feature. He's got a big back laid into him, and yet he's still round and radical in terms of his rib. His spine will want to reach for the sky just a little bit. He'll want to get just a little coarser in terms of the base of his blade, but that is a terminal driven goat that has a lot of rib and a lot of terminal product and a lot of shape and mass. This guy right here is a similar story. Big pin, round ribbed kind of a goat that is big back. To me, I read him just a little plain. I read him just just a little chubby in terms of his body wall. Read him just a little coarse about the base of his shoulder, but I loved his muscularity. I loved his feature. Young lady has an awesome presented goat. To me, he read a little round out of the top side of his hip. He wasn't just as opened up in terms of his pin or lower stifle shape, but the young lady's done a great job getting that goat shown. Awesome presented kind of a critter that has the right kind of look from the side. Sound, comfortable, practical goat. Needs to have a bit more terminal shape and merit. Needs to be just a little shorter bladed and shallower chested, but that goat is really, really sound and still has the right kind of rib cage. Congratulations to those exhibitors. Awesome job.
All right, Class 7 Market Goats is about to go in the ring. We need Class 8 to come in and check in with Pam. Sorry. Before Class 8, we need those first and seconds from the first 4 classes of the Market Weather Division to check in with Pam for our lightweight Market Goat drive. We need our first and seconds to come in and check in the natural breeding ewe divisions so we can do our natural breeding ewe drive. Again, if you've got family members that weren't able to join us this weekend that want to watch the show as we work through these today, our friends at Ringside Live, Laddie and Landry, are streaming it for us. The U Show is streamed live on Ringside Live's Facebook page. You can find the Market Goat Show streamed live on the Cheyenne Livestock Expo Facebook page. So tell them to head to those Facebook pages to find those shows and watch live as these kids show their livestock.
Blues have been really fun, and I'm excited to get into our champion view drive here on our blue side because I think we've had some really, really fun and difficult and challenging classes to put together, and so excited to see how things shape and come back together. I think like our last class, after a class winner, I think there's some discussion, some things you can do different, but I think this one's got to win this particular class. She comes in, and I just love this thing in motion, stout featured, loose constructed in terms of the way she's built. The setback there to her blade and knee, length of hip and range of motion to her hind legs, absolutely awesome. In my particular mind, that's probably as good of a touching one that's came to the ring to this particular point in terms of her hide quality, in terms of the shape and the edge and the texture she feeds with out of the backside of her blade, and then the contour, the roundness to her body is really, really good. Is she just the juiciest one in terms of her stifle and right there in the seat of her pants? No, but everything matches, everything fits within to her skeleton. That's a very, very nice one to go ahead and win this particular class. Like I said, I think there's some discussion you can have. I think a lot of differences here within the rest of the top 5. I thought this sheep coming next, I thought propped up from the side, most likely resembled her class winner in terms of her look and her build to the front portion of her skeleton. And I thought comparative to the one directly behind her was just looser built in terms of her angles. I thought longer, leveler out of her hip, more appropriate in terms of the set there to her hind leg. My biggest critic on this particular sheep is I just want to give her more shape. I want to round her there at the upper portion of her rib cage. If we can give that one just a shot more shape and just texture and handle quality, and I think it's a very, very logical place for her to sit in too. Right here, buddy, you've got a really high quality one. Awesome to look at. She is really, really neat in terms of height of shoulder, where her neck set. She's flat back. She's stout in terms of her feature. She probably has the advantage just in terms of shape and handle quality comparative to the ewe directly in front of you. I want to pry you open right there in terms of your pin bone. We ask you to go in motion. Your underline doesn't hold together. You get just a little too straight, just a little too restricted there off either end of her skeleton. This ewe, I thought initially kind of hit me hard. She has got big grizzly paws down low. She's thin-skinned. She's awesome touching. I would have thought of the initial top four, as you get right here, she's just the flattest, the least progressive in terms of her width, and just the deepest and most off and plainest there through the front portion of her skeleton. With a good touch and really stout featured one, young lady does a nice job with. This one works up in this particular class just in terms of her look and her build. Tall-shouldered, beautiful in terms of her underline. Her center of her spine forward, she is very, very impressive. She's pried apart in terms of her chest and really neat looking. She doesn't have the extras, the wow factor. She just doesn't have the punch and the power as the ones in front of her. But an awesome class, good class. Wonder if you guys would give a nice round of applause.
All right, we'll be bringing back our first and seconds here in the natural division to select our champion natural breeding ewe. Those breed division champions and reserves will come back for our top 5 breeding ewes at the end after we get done with our Blackface crosses. All right, our natural breeding ewe division drive is in the ring. We need our AOBs to come over to Colton and check in. Our registered AOBs need to come over to Colton and check in. Our first and seconds from those first 4 market weather classes to come over and check in with Pam. So that way we can do our lightweight division drive. As we work through the shows here today, just remember that all of the shows and class orders are published on the Showman app for both rings. So you might have to refresh just to make sure you have the most up-to-date, accurate class list that is published on the Showman app. So you can just go on your phone and view the class list, and it should be up to date.
first things first, great class. And man, if you ended up in this class, if you ended up in this top 5, I do feel for you maybe just a little bit, because I do think there's a couple of these goats in here that if we were to run them in a class or two that were just a little bit different, I think they would be very, very competitive in there as well. I also think, before we get to talking about our class winner, we have to make a statement about that goat. Is he just the biggest and gnarliest in terms of his hip that we have seen today? No, he is not. That goat has more than enough hip for me, and then beyond that, he is a wild-looking rip who is awesome in terms of his skeleton. That is a stout, up-footed, flexible kind of a critter who runs directly uphill. He is the freshest and the most juvenile in terms of his neck and his head. That goat is awesome in terms of the touch out of the backside of his shoulder, and then with that, I mean, just commanding in terms of his presence. That is a very, very high-quality goat. So is that goat just the gnarliest pin critter we've seen today? No, he's not. But man, that goat has more than enough pin for me. That goat is very, very good. If you want a pin bone, you want stifle shape, you want muscularity, man, that goat in second is a monster. He is big-backed. He is creasy. He is awesome just in terms of the shape and dimension out of the backside of his blade. He is awesome in terms of his lower leg and his stifle. That thing is big and monstrous in terms of his foot size and his feature, and yet he still remains proportional and balanced there from the side. For me, he's a little coarser at the base of his shoulder. He's a little quicker in terms of his step in relation to our class winner, but man, that is a high quality goat that has a real round rib cage, a real big back shape as well. This goat right here is very, very similar, and actually might be just a tick cuter at the base of his sternum than the goat ahead of him. That goat is fresh shaped, he's high catability, he's square loined and big pinned. Again, I like this goat from a presentation standpoint, and standing there, I think he gives them all a run for their money. I get him in motion, I want to relax him about the angle of his blade and his knee. He'll get a little tighter there in terms of his ankle. Man, that goat has a lot of high quality things going on right there. This goat right here, beautifully fresh, awesome hydration. That goat is fresh and hard and aggressive in terms of his back shape. That goat stopped and parked. Man, I think we're game time. I get him into motion. He wants to get just a little drier in terms of his rear body. He wants to run downhill ever so slightly, and he's not just as comfortable in terms of his front skeleton. I want to relax him there in terms of his knee. But young lady, you've done a tremendous job getting that one stuck. You've done a tremendous job getting that one presented. Young man right here, again, awesome in terms of his shape. I like that goat in terms of his elevation up front. I think that goat is long-necked and he's bubbly in terms of his butt. To me, that goat wants to pull his hind leg underneath of himself. He's not just as big-footed and manly in terms of his lower skeleton as those ahead of him, but man, that's a good goat, no doubt. I thought these goats right here got challenging. This goat, to me, read a little bit more angular and more athletic than this one. Didn't read that goat just as aggressive in terms of his back shape. I want to make that guy just a little better from a terminal merit standpoint, but good-looking, sound, and comfortable. This goat, to me, is big-backed and big-shaped. He's better in terms of his loin and the density of his foot size and feature than the goat ahead of him. I read him a little deeper, read him just a little more vertical off either end of his skeleton, but I love the terminal merit. This goat, awesome presented, young lady. They've back-to-back you 2 classes now. You've come out here and presented these goats incredibly good. They're sound, they're comfortable. They need to be a little bigger pin for me. They need to be a little rounder ribbed, but man, awesome looking. This goat right here, picturesque from the side, needs more punch. He's just a little peaked in terms of the top side of his skeleton, but sound and awesome in terms of his look. This goat right here, I thought awesome spine. I thought beautiful in terms of underline balance. I get behind that goat. He needs opened up in terms of his full rib, his mid body, his loin, and his upper pin bone. That goat has a little bit more muscle than we're cooking with grease right there, and I truly do mean that. These 2 goats I thought were very similar, practical, easy feeding kind of critters. This one to me had a little bit more uniqueness in terms of his head and neck assembly. This goat to me had a little more rear depth in terms of his rear rib and flank. 2 very, very good goats to round us out. Give them a big round of applause. Tremendous class, a very, very good set of exhibitors.
As we get over here on our youth side, this is our first breed drive of multiple classes that we've had to get to come back. And, anybody knows me knows I'm a sucker for a good blue one. And I thought that we've seen quite a few of them. I thought these classes were tremendously high quality. And again, I don't think each one looks the exact same, but I thought each class winner and second, those were the best representations that needed to come back out here. I'm going to talk about the 2 that it's down to. I think they're wild. I think they're different. I think they're special, but I think they're both just a little different in terms of the way they're built and constructed. Young lady here out of the second class, this thing, when she gets her stuck and propped up from the side, she's got the skinny neck back, tall-shouldered, short, tiny blade. She's progressive in terms of her underlying quality, and you can just see the added shape she's got. Tremendous in terms of her texture. As we said in class, that thing is absolutely ginormous in terms of her upper hip and pin set, and I think still round in terms of the upper portion there to her cage. Again, going to talk about some criticisms on them. I think she could be a little rounder there at the base of her forerib. I think we asked these things to go in motion. She wants to roll out of her hip just a little bit, throw her hind leg underneath of her, but at the end of the day, that view right there is so good, and what she can do from behind I think is very, very impressive. Young ladies here out of the second class that we just got done talking, one that I love, and I think both these ewes maybe need to be modified in terms of their hind leg. I think this ewe is probably just a little bit more attractive in terms of how she holds herself together in motion, but she too is probably just a little vertical. So this one's got a little saddle roll under. This one's a little more vertical, a little more upright, and so I guess it's kind of just throwing stones at a tree on what you want to do. Like we talked about in class, tremendous shape. I love her body. She's got the advantage in my mind in terms of this roundness there to cage and to forerib. She's not as big in terms of her upper hip and pin set, but I think both of them still paint a tremendous image from the side. Both of them are tremendously high quality. I think at the end of the day, you could probably flip a coin, and I think if you brought Nate over here, a good buddy of mine, we would probably sit out here, break these things down, and discuss them for the duration of the day, because I think there's a lot of different ways you can go. I think there's one of them. When you just step back and study these things from the side, I think she's so hard to replicate. She's so hard to make. She's what I want in terms of look up front. She's what I want in terms of length of blade. She's what I want in terms of freshness and composition. And I think the longer we sit out here, the longer we show them. This one's just held together better in terms of her skeleton. If you guys would, give them a really nice round of applause. We'll grab you a champion in reserve in our natural division.
All right, we need our registered AOBs to go over and check in with Colton. Our first class will be registered Shropshire, and then we've got 3 registered Hams. Congratulations to our champion natural breeding ewe, Haley Bird. Our reserve, Elizabeth Alberich. Then you don't have to worry about getting results or anything. So.
Man, the market does this morning were really fun, and we get into our lightweight division of market goats, and I think it's equally as fun. And I think there's a big variety in terms of what's been thrown at us so far. Some classes, I felt like we've had to maybe pay just a little bit more attention in terms of the market fundamentals of body shape and build and spread. Other classes, I think I've had the ability to go out there and say, man, this one looks like a very unique high-end, critter that can go on from here. And so that's what I think's been fun. I like to say, I think all the goats on the front side of things have muscularity and power. I think they've all been really good presented. And then with that, I like to say that they're sound and they run uphill. And so that's been really fun for me in this first division. I hope we can maintain that throughout the day. Again, going to let you know what my thought process was. I thought class 1 was absolutely dirty. I thought there were 2 goats in there that were different in terms of what they represented. I sided with a goat who was just a little wider skeleton and a little rounder body, yet still had that proportion, the balance, and the look that I was after. That goat is tough-skulled and short-eared. I like that goat just in terms of his foot size and his feature. And as I get him back out here, he's still one of the more unique goats that I think has a lot of value. That one in second, man, it's hard to turn him because he is just so high-headed. He is awesome presented. He runs directly uphill. In relation to our class winner out of that first class, he wasn't just as manly out of the backside of his shoulder. He wasn't just as good in terms of his knee. But, man, that was a very good class. Class 2, I thought, was just a little bit more challenging, and you had to to keep your priorities in check. This goat right here was fresh presented. He's big back. His texture is awesome, and yet still he's proportional and balanced. I thought that when in that class he was just the manliest and the burliest and the best in terms of his upper turn to his cage, and yet he still looked like a show goat. One that was second is probably a little longer hipped and a little more coordinated in terms of his hind leg. To me, I didn't think that goat was nearly as fresh presented or just as round in terms of his rib. Class 3, man, I thought that was a good goat that won that class. He runs uphill, he's proportional, he's big backed and shapely. I think that goat is awesome in terms of his outline and his silhouette. To me, as I get out here, is he just a little round out of the top side of his hip? Is he a little sharp there in terms of his hock? He is. But again, I think that goat is very, very good. The one that was second in that class is burly and ripped up and big shaped. To me, he was a little straight and a little mature in terms of his head. And then this last class, I had to clarify that the goat that wins this last class isn't the biggest pinned. But man, he is so sound. He is so comfortable. He looks like a show goat out here. And then he's presented to that same degree. I think he's just a very, very high quality critter. The one that was second in that class was just absolutely bubbly in terms of his shape. He is big backed and yet still proportional. Wasn't just as sound, wasn't just as far reaching. Ultimately, I think it becomes a 2-horse race out here. I'm going to keep 3 of these things back, or we're going to go and get out a top 3 out of this division. And man, I do think it becomes incredibly, incredibly challenging. I'm going to put the mic down. I'm going to go get you guys my 3 favorites, but congratulate this group of exhibitors right here on just an absolutely tremendous job.
Just a single entry here, and I believe be the start of our AOBs, the Shrop or Oxford, whatever you want to call it. I think one, though, that's tremendously high quality. Young lady props this one up from the side. Really neat looking. She's skinny, long about her neck, tremendous in terms of her shape and just the power she's got. Progressive in terms of her width. Love her in terms of just compositional correctness. I thought a very, very high quality one. If you would, give her a nice round of applause.
A champion registered AOB breeding you, Braken Nelson. That's first in class. Now we're going to do that second class AOB breeding news, registered AOB breeding news in the ring right now. Hey, if you need to know where we're at, go just look up at Ringside Live. There's the broadcast this everywhere, so Ringside Live. Hey, Nate's getting ready to evaluate Class 8 Market Weathers in the Goat Show. Class 8 Market Weathers.
Going to go ahead and leave these here as they come in, and I think dominant, logical place to start. Young lady sheep here up front. That thing paints an awesome picture from the side. She's presented to the absolute nines. She is neat looking, tall shouldered. She's got a giant front paw and forearm. She is short bladed and skinny necked and flat backed and just so neat. As you ask her to get out and go in terms of her flex and comfort, is she just the most overwhelming one that's walked into the ring to this particular point in terms of this bulk, in terms of width and shape and power? Absolutely not. But it's so hard to deny that one when she looks and presents herself like that one does from the side. Not a very, very logical place to start. One that's going to go ahead and come here in seconds. Obviously got the advantage as you step right around the backside of Livestock. Love her in terms of thinness there to her hide. She is bold and really stout and really, really opened up. And if you just want to step in behind them and say she's the biggest back, biggest ended one and use her, I won't argue with you, but I will say as you step off and study them from the side, and especially when you ask them to get them to go out in motion, that use just too low. Right there at the point of her shoulder, just need to make her a shot taller and neater fronted, stouten her up in terms of forearm and front foot and feature, and then I think can get just a little bit closer. Young man brings us one that thinks real high quality. I think just runs into a really, really tough class with a really good class winner. But I think this ewe in motion's really good. She is sound. She's flexible. You get her stuck and parked as she runs uphill. She's skinny neck. She's really bold in terms of the way her rib cage is put together and assembled. For me, though, she's probably just the plainest looking one from the side, the least amount of extras. And you get right here, I thought the most closed up and nondescript in terms of her upper pin and stifle. I thought a really, really nice class. If you guys would, give them all a nice round of applause.
Registered AOB breeding ewes. First, Corbin Klassen. Second, Lakeland Rooksville. Third, Cy Blessing. We're on the champion AOB registered breeding ewe. Let's catch up on that lightweight division in the Market Go show. Mr. Nate selected Zane Richardson as lightweight champion. And then we'll go clear to down to the Class 7 to Brooklyn Jarowski. Class 8's in the ring on the Market Goat side, and champion registered ALB on the breeding ewe side.
So we get out here for a champion on our AOB side. Not a huge numbers division, but I certainly thought a lot of quality. I think 3 individuals out here that I think are really, really high quality. I think there's one in my mind sticks out like a sore thumb. I think it get just a little bit closer as we go ahead and tie in for reserve. So we'll go ahead and we'll grab you a champion and we'll study up for reserve. If you guys would, give him a nice round of applause. Here for reserve in our AOB division. I think it can get really, really close. We'll go through and talk about them so you know where my mind's at. One that wins the first class, really big-legged, really awesome in terms of touch. I thought her shape, her texture, and her tone were really, really good. I think you step off to the side of them. I maybe want to tuck her up right there at the base of her sternum. We could pry her open in terms of her pin bone just a little bit, but she's got awesome shape, good flare there to her stifle and her lower leg. Maybe want to balance her up just a little bit better from this side. Young ladies here coming next is one that when she's not fighting and she gets her stuck and parked, that you'll give you a really good look. She has the right kind of underlying progression, the right kind of balance, and one that you get right here and study from the 3/4 angle. Tremendous in terms of her hide quality, her shape, and her body, her progression of width. I guess my biggest critic on her is probably your attitude and emotion. I want to make her just a little bit taller shouldered, but I think as you sit out here, study livestock, study build and balance, and ones that still encompass the right shape and muscle, she's my second favorite. She'll be reserved.
Really good way to get our D2 kicked off. And when our class winner came in, the only thought in my mind is, what is that thing? Absolutely awesome, just in terms of the way he's assembled from a skeleton standpoint, and then with that, dynamic in terms of his look, big and bubbly and robust in terms of his muscularity and rib cage. I mean, man, that goat is very, very good. I will be excited to see that thing come back out here in the drive. I am pumped up. The blood is flowing. That goat is very, very high quality, and I will be excited again, like I said, to see him back. I think it gets close between 2 and 3. To me, I sided with the goat who's just a little sounder in terms of his rear skeleton, a little fresher in terms of the shape out of the backside of his shoulder, and just a little more correct in terms of the usage of his knee. I think that goat is really good in terms of his skin in relation to our class winner. He is just a little more prominent about the base of his breast and his chest. He's not just as big and robust in terms of his pin bone, but man, that goat is awesome in terms of his tone and texture. I think that goat is very, very good in a lot of places as well. This goat right here has a lot of uniqueness. He's really long-necked, he's big pinned, his jump muscle's giant, and his cage is just as round and radical as our class winners. To me, he maybe wants to get just a little vertical in terms of his blade and his knee. He is actually a bit shallower in terms of the base of his chest than the one in second, but he just doesn't utilize his front skeleton in the same regard. He'll get just a little quicker out of the top side of his hip and a little tighter about his ankle, but I thought that was a very, very good pair of goats for 2 and 3. This goat, to me, maybe didn't hit me as hard right out of the gate, but the longer that we're out here, that's just a really practical kind of a goat who covers the basic fundamentals of some spread and some foot size and some feature. That goat is relatively sound and comfortable and yet still has some show ring look. To me, is that goat just an outlier in terms of his look or muscularity or texture? No, he's not, but just a good high quality piece of livestock. This one right here runs directly uphill and he's big backed and creasy touching. To me, I get him in motion. He'll want to drop at the base of his shoulder, get a little discombobulated in terms of his knee. He doesn't want to just take the pin just as neatly as the remainder of them. I wish he was just a little sounder off either end of his skeleton, but that goat has a lot of muscularity and terminal shape working up high. This goat right here I thought was awesome spined and real sound. To me, he's just a little deep in terms of the base of his chest. He's not just as unique in terms of his underline progression, and then as I stand behind the goats, maybe not just as big and burly about his pin bone either, but man, a goat that has just a really sound, really flexible kind of skeleton. This goat right here I thought awesome skinned, really fresh backed kind of a critter who again is presented incredibly well. I read him kind of like the goat ahead of him. A little deeper in terms of his chest, a little rounder about his loin, a little rounder at the top side of his hip. But again, I thought that goat was good in terms of his touch. This goat right here is stout skulled, awesome in terms of its foot size and feature, good shape. Maybe not just the same kind of volume and mass, but I thought that goat's shape was really nice. This goat was tall shouldered and sound and big legged, needed more terminal mass and merit. This goat right here I thought was awesome just in terms of being a basic kind of a goat with the right kind of spread and turn up high. That goat to me needs to be recorrected in terms of his lower skeleton. Want to see that goat be just a little bigger legged, but young lady, you are doing an absolutely fantastic job. Congratulations to those exhibitors. Again, very nice job.
Hey, thanks, Nate. Hey, Anna Lundgren to the gate, please. Anna Lundgren. Class 9, Market Weathers. Hey, Class 8, class winner, Cooper Maxwell. Second, Jalen Miner. Third, Casey Quang. Fourth, Stormy Lubbers. Fifth, Corbin Jaggers. Class 9, makeup area, please. Hey, line up by the gate and let them guys know you're here. We're going to have a nice, snappy show today.
Nice class here, I believe, to get things kicked off. It started on our Blackface ewes, and I thought 2 ewes that surfaced that both represented the quality and the presentation that I was after. But I think the one that we're going to go ahead and land on, I think to me, just represents to do all day. Really tall-shouldered, neat ahead of her blade, one that balances out really good from the side, good in terms of her shape and her touch and just her composition where she's at this stage of the game. Obviously, I want to modify her in terms of her hind legs. She's a little too long in terms of her shank. I think if we can do that, then I think it's a no-brainer that she needs to win this particular class. Like the young lady sheep here coming next. Propped up from the side, I think she's flat back. She's white-featured. She's got probably just a shot more in terms of forearm, maybe in substance down low. I thought just for me, as we set these things in motion. Maybe she fell into a few more pieces. She's just a little deeper, just a little plainer there through her front skeleton, and I'll probably question where that's going to be at long term as these things progress and get more mature. But I thought in terms of just build, in terms of balance, when you get her propped up from the side, that was the second best one in this particular class. Love the shape, love the roundness of body and pin width of this particular ewe. Just a little deep, just a little off in terms of her balance here from the side, with that quality in terms of his shape up high. I think, man, it's going to round out. It's got a stout featured one that I like, again, in terms of just where she represents, in terms of muscularity up high. We just got to loosen her up in terms of her build and her skeleton down low. If you guys would, give a nice round of applause.
Thanks, Evan. Hey, we're holding up the show. We're waiting on y'all. This is a really kind of a national show. We shouldn't have to wait on you. We're going to make a nice, snappy show. We want it to be fun and fair for everyone. Make sure you're at the ring and make sure you get in the classes, because we're going to make sure this is enjoyable for everybody. Hey, that registered AOB breeding ewe champion goes to Colburn Clausen, reserved to Lakeland Rookstool. Class 9 Market Weathers in the goat show in the ring, please. That means Class 10, please check in. Class 10 Market Weathers, please check in. Hey, we're on the Class 10 Blackface Cross Breeding ewe. Class 10 in the ring, please. Hey, we've got a lot of volunteers help us out all the way throughout the year. Let's recognize some of the Sheep and Goat Committee for us today. Ellen Freeman, Chairman. Jason Simpson. Justin Nathan, Clay Elliott, Tyson Rule, Braxton, Bobby Strecker, Sidney Beatty, Chase Taylor, Millie Frink, and Pam Freeman. We'd like to thank all these guys for all their effort they put into us for all year long. Thank you very much. Class 10 Market Weathers are in the ring right now. Class 10. I'm learning a little bit here. Class 9's in the ring. There's Class 9 Market Weathers in the ring. My bad. Class 10 lineup. Make it area, please. Class 9 Market Weathers showing right now. Dylan Pittman, Briscoe Lesky, Ariana Lundgren, Tosin Tangen, Lizzie Lambert, Brooklyn Lambrecht, Baylor Hubbard, Emery Chamberlain, Elena Barger, Stockton Musgrove, Whitley Schweitzer, and Autumn Zuber. They're working in Class 9 right now. Class 10, please check in with Miss Pam over there. Should be 8 entries in Class 10 in a Market Weather show. Class 10 makeup area, please. We're on the Blackface Cross in the sheep show ring. Breeding you Blackface Cross. Class 10 in the Blackface Cross Breeding ewes. Kylie Davies, Macklin Sims, Cooper Maxwell, Aubrey Sweeter, Carter Watson, Laramie Sexton, Tessa Henderson, Addie Cortez, Addison Perkins. So Class 11, Blackface Cross Breeding ewes, be checking in. The makeup area is yours. Please check in. Hey, let's thank some sponsors while you got a little time here. In the purple level division is Murdoch's, Cooper Specialty Feeds, Freeman Showbox, Transova, Essential Feeds, First Northern Bank of Wyoming, and Wyoming Junior Hereford Association. We want to thank each one for all their support they give us for the whole Cheyenne Livestock Expo. Thank you very much. Have we got a lot of sponsors within the breezeway over there selling Christmas presents? Pine Bluff Distilling's over here. They donate all their portion of their sales to us and all 60 bottles for us throughout the year. Freeman Showbox, they donate supplies for a lot of stuff we use. Cheyenne Kubota, they donate all the equipment we use. We want to thank all these Tenco LLC and Equipment Share. Thank you very much for all the sponsorship you give us today. Class 9 on the Market Goat Show. Class 10 on the Blackface Crossbreed News Show. Legacy Livestock would love to take some photos of you at the backdrop. They're taking pictures of Canada throughout the ring. Look through those. There's a lot of nice Christmas presents to be had there. Legacy Livestock Images. Hey, Class 10, Madison Mancha, Charlie Isaacs. Yeah, we're waiting for in the makeup area, please. Class 10, Madison and Charlie.
Really good Class 2 in our second division, and the top two goats in this deal are very, very good. They're very, very legit, if you get what I'm putting down. Man, these two goats are very unique, and with that, they differ in terms of where they're good. The goat that, to me, surfaces does so because that goat is the hardest handling, the shortest bladed, shallowest chested goat, and though that goat will want to get just a little weird out of the top side of its hip in motion, that goat, to me, remains the most collected in terms of its skeleton, the most athletic and comfortable down low, and then ties it together while still being the most aggressive in terms of his shape and while being wild in terms of his look as well. No doubt the goat that comes out here in two, longer in terms of his hip, deeper in terms of his rear gut. I like that goat in terms of his roundness and radical cage. That goat is awesome in terms of his spread and his volume up high. When I get my hands on him, he's just a little plainer in terms of his touch. He's not as aggressive in terms of his muscularity. He's a little rounder there in terms of his loin, and as I travel down into his body wall, he is just a little bit more plush, if you will, in that regard. But man, that is a good goat with a high quality image there from the side. I think 3, 4, and 5 get ultra challenging because 3 to me still remains just as up to code as any of them in terms of his touch and his tone. But maybe of the initial 3, he's the most concerning in terms of the roundness of his hip and the utilization of his hind leg. But still, that goat is proportional and balanced. His back shape is absolutely awesome, and his freshness is really good. Now, no doubt, I love the goat that comes out here in 4 just from a skeleton standpoint. Big-legged, runs directly uphill. really sound and comfortable in terms of his movement. Again, like the goat in second, he just looks a little past his prime. He's maybe battling some staff up high. He wants to get just a little plainer in terms of the roll to his body wall. He's not as aggressive in terms of the shape of the backside of his shoulder or there over his loin, and he is just a little thicker there in terms of his neck. But of the between 3, 4, and 5, I thought that goat was really sound. I thought he was really comfortable. I thought he was really big-legged. Goat that comes out here in 5, man, as we say that trio kind of got just a bit more challenging because this goat's back shape and presentation is absolutely awesome. That goat is really round and radical in terms of his cage. That allows for that kind of aggressive touch and tone to occur. He is square loin. He's awesome presented. The young lady shows the absolute nines, the wheels off of him. Very, very nice job. A young man's goat right here is absolutely wild in terms of its look. Short-bladed, really sound, high caliber, high quality kind of a critter. Again, as we compare him back to the 5, not as opened up, not as masculine, not just as rugged in terms of his muscularity. This goat has all the power and mass and dimension in the world. That goat is really fresh and really aggressive in terms of his touch and his tone. To me, he wants to get just a little tiptoey in his Jordans from behind. He wants to get just a little open at the point of his shoulder. He doesn't blend just nearly as smoothly or as comfortably, but that's a good goat. This goat right here, I read with just a little more terminal mass and merit than the goat on the other side of him, and yet he still remained a level spine, high-headed kind of a look in relation to the goats ahead of him. He's a little drier in terms of his flank. He's not as big pinned, but that goat, again, has some quality, larger outline, bigger scaled kind of a goat that is just a little bit past his prime, and maybe he wants to get just a little rounder out of the backside of his shoulder. Maybe wants to get a little more peaked there as well. This goat right here is big-backed and shapely, doesn't have the same kind of uniqueness from a look standpoint that we've been after today, but man, that goat is awesome from just a carcass standpoint. That goat that's going to round us out. Easy feeding, long-bodied, extended kind of a critter. He wants to deviate out of the backside of his shoulder. He could be a little sounder up front. The young man does a great job getting that one presented. Congratulate them all with a big round of applause. Tremendous class.
Tough class over here on our Blackface side of things. And if you're sitting ringside and you want to say that any of these top 4 could win this particular class, I'm not going to argue with you one bit. I think all of them are quality, but I think at the end of the day, they've all got a couple real glaring issues and holes that probably need to be discussed. And I guess at the end of the day, the one that I kept coming back to that I think in my mind just read with the most amount of quality and what we've done is the young ladies here out front. She's the most mobile as we ask these things to get out and go. She's skinny neck, she's flat backed, awesome in terms of forearm setbackness to her blade and her knee, her length of hip, range of motion out of her hind legs, awesome. She is fresh, awesome touching, round bodied, progressive in terms of her width. I think she's just a little deep. I want to shallow her up just a little bit. I think if she's just a little shallower, probably if she's just as shallow as the one in third, then I think it's a no-brainer. We've got a gamer that's really, really good. So my biggest hole on that one is she needs to be a little shallower without everything else in terms of body shape, in terms of bulk and width, feature, flexibility, and comfort down low is why she needed to win. Young lady, you do an awesome job getting that one shown. The one that's probably the farthest reach in and has the wildest pieces is the one sitting here in 2. As you can see that sitting ringside, she's rolled up back. She's giant pin. She's bubbly muscled in terms of the power that she's got from there behind. For me, though, she probably just falls into too many pieces. Not everything fits together in terms of her skeleton. She's a little open right there at the backside of her blade. She's a little washed out in terms of her loin, a little short in terms of her hip, and just doesn't handle her hind leg with enough comfort and security for me. But her pieces in terms of shape and muscularity were real unique and deserved to sit right there in the second. Propped up from the side, I really like this sheep. She's tremendously shallow. If you want to talk about studying livestock, from the top side of their blade to the base of her sternum, this one fits the mold really well. And propped up, she runs uphill. She's got an awesome look. She's progressive in terms of her width. We ask them to go in motion. She just wants to get too low up front. She'll get just read a little too round and get a little straight in terms of her hind leg. But again, pieces and parts in that one, if you stay propped up from the side, the uniqueness, the shallowness up front, all that's your speed and what you want to do, I'm game with it. I just got to make her sounder. Thought the 1 and 2 was farther reaching. Thought the one that won was just the safest one that needed to win. So again, I think it's very, very challenging. Young ladies here coming next. Presentation and showmanship, absolutely bad to the bone. And again, I think pieces and parts in this one, really good. Her forearm size and front foot is absolutely beautiful. She's skinny neck. She's tall shouldered. She's flat backed and good textured. You step right here though. Now the initial top 4, she probably is the most off in terms of her underlying quality, and then you roll around the backside. She's the flattest one. That's the most closed up in terms of her pin and stifle, and so we need to manage those things. But if you just want to say presentation, showmanship, and just giving you a real nice look from the side, and want to start her, again, not going to argue with you one bit because I think there's a tremendous amount of quality within that particular sheep. Stout featured, real muscular one here that's going to round out. Good shape, big pin, big ended. We got to loosen her up. She gets a little straight off either end. Just gets just a little low fronted. Maybe didn't have the extras and the unique pieces in terms of grabbing you on initial impression standpoint as the 4 ahead of you. A really nice, challenging class. If you guys would, give a nice round of applause.
Hey, thanks, Evan McLean, for that Class 10 reasons. Pay him off like this. Tessa Henderson's class winner. Carter Watchin. Cooper Maxwell's 3rd. 4th is Addie Cortez. 5th is Laramie Sexton. 5th is Laramie Sexton, 6, Aubrey Sweeter. 7, Addison Perkins. 8, Kylie Davies. 9, McKinley Sims. That was Class 10. Class 11's coming in the ring. That means Class 12. Blackface crossbreeding ewes, please be lining up. Hey, we're trying to keep this show kind of snappy and kind of fun for everybody here, so get to your class on time. You know, it's kind of a national show. Get to your class on time. We're going to make it good for everybody, okay? Thank you very much for being ready. Hey, Nate's finishing up here on Class 10 in the Market Weather Show. Class 10, there's about 10 entries in there. Class 11, make sure you're checked in because Pam's ready to check in. And then after Class 11 on the Market Weather side, we got that middleweight division coming up, so be ready for that. All important middleweight division on the Market Goat side.
All right, attention exhibitors. As I've stated already, we are streaming the shows. The Sheep Ring is on Ringside Live's Facebook page. The Goat Show is on the Cheyenne Livestock Expo page. That is a great place for you to see what class is in the ring. It tells you right on the banner at the bottom of the live feed. So if you guys are in the back of the barn and not sure what class we're on, or you can't hear the announcements over the blower, pull up that live feed and you'll know what class we're on so you can make it to your class on time. We would greatly appreciate that.
Class 10's in on the Market side. Class 11 on the Blackface breeding ewe side. Be ready, please. Let's maybe catch up on that Class 9 on the Market Weather side. Class winner, Ariana Lundgren. 2nd, Bristol Lesky. 3rd, third goes to Tosin Tegan. 4th to Dylan Pittman. And then 5th to Emery Chamberlain. And 6th to Baylor Hubbard. That was Class 9, but Class 10 showing right now. Class 12 on the Blackface crossbreeding ewes, please be checking in. Makeup area is yours. Please check in. Hey, Class 11 Market Weathers. Bella Campbell, 0148. Bella Campbell, please. And Michael Heinrich. Makeup area, please. Your class is getting ready to line up. Class 11, Bella and Michael, please. If you're in the makeup area, please check in with Miss Pam. She's going to check you off, and then we'll quit yelling at you. Thank you much. Thanks for Nate Berkshire judging the market weathers today. He's a California native, but he's residing in Illinois right now. And Breeding Sheep Show is Evan McLean.
As a show judge, you never know the breakdown of the classes, but man, when we're working on stock at home or we're preparing for a show that we're going to, there's always that class of the day where you wonder, hey, I hope I don't end up in this one, or man, I hope I do end up in this one. You let the big dogs kind of fight it out. Man, I would be surprised if there's going to be a class that is much tougher than this. This is an absolutely incredible class of livestock, and man, let me tell you, the top 5, top 7, heck, all the way down, this is good stuff. Our class winner is an absolute man-eater, a shark in blood-infested waters. Man, that thing comes through here. And he's about 80 foot wide in terms of his chest. That transitions into a gloriously round rib cage. He is monstrous in terms of his upper pin bone, a true genuine source of power out here. And then he's not only the biggest legged, but to me, he's just as wild and unique in terms of his look as any of them. That goat is going to be a hard one to press. If you guys have a goat coming in later classes, all I can tell you to do is pack your lunch. The goat that's going to come out here in 2, man, that goat is wild looking. He pushes our class winner in terms of being short-bladed and shallow-chested. He's actually just a bit longer in terms of his neck, and man, that goat's silhouette and pattern from the side is absolutely nuts. I'm a big fan of this critter. Again, presented to the 9s, his shape and his cutability and his touch are absolutely wild. I'm a big fan of that one as well. Young man, I would not put your head down. I would be excited to come back out here for the divisional drive. That is a high quality critter. This one that's going to come out here in 3, round and radical in terms of his rib cage. That goat still runs directly uphill and ties his neck the right kind of way to the top side of his blade. That goat, to me, actually probably has just a little more reach in terms of his hind leg than the goat ahead of him. To me, though, as I get critical on him, he isn't just as unique in terms of the base of his breastplate and chest floor. He's not just as short-bladed and shallow. That's being incredibly critical on a high quality goat that has been presented to the 9s. Young lady brings me a goat that most of the time I'd be absolutely in love with. Flat-backed, awesome presented, really sound and comfortable. I'm sorry, though, you fell into the wrong class. He reads just a little deeper in terms of his chest. He's a little flatter in terms of his forerib, but that's a high-quality critter. Again, a very nice goat. This goat right here, tremendous in terms of his back shape, his loin, and his upper pin bone. That goat, again, remains just high-headed and chiseled in terms of his jaw. To me, he reads just with just a little extra set to his hind leg. He'll pull it underneath of himself, and though it's functional, it's not nearly as aesthetic as those ahead of him. I wish that guy was just a little bit cuter in terms of his hind leg utilization. This goat right here, when he came in and propped up there from the side, I thought, oh wow, that goat is an absolute contender. He runs uphill, he's short-bladed, he's awesome in terms of his shape. Again, a goat that's presented incredibly well. Again, as I set these goats into motion, I made him walk a couple times. He's one of the quicker stepping goats. He'll lower at the point of his shoulder and not give me the same kind of captivating image as a couple of the other ones, but man, that is a good goat. Sound and comfortable, awesome looking goat. goat right here that is high tying and has an advantage in terms of extension and look. That goat to me reads just a little plainer in terms of his touch. He's not as aggressive or wide or wild in terms of his handling quality, but that goat is very, very sound and very, very comfortable. This goat right here is big pin and awesome in terms of the progression of his width and his wedge. To me, he read just a little frailer featured. He read just a little uncoordinated behind. Young lady right here is out here doing just an absolutely fantastic job of getting her goat shown. She has a goat that is big backed and she's got that thing's head and neck cranked. I mean, hats off to you. You're doing just absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, he is just a little frail featured. He's a little round out of the top side of his hip, but young lady, you keep your chin up. You're doing awesome. Boss man right here has a gigundous legged critter that is awesome in terms of his spine utilization. Boss man, I feel bad for you. This is probably one of the best goats that we've rounded out a class with today. Unfortunately, you fell in with the heaters, and so that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles sometimes. Congratulations to all the exhibitors. Big round of applause for them.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Nate Brookshire, for Class 10 reasons. Winner, Brooke Mortved. Second, Bennett Gordon. Third, Zane Richardson. Fourth, Janice Stearns. Fifth, Brooklyn Habrek. Sixth, Sophie Romley. 7, Madison Mancha. 8, Tracer Hagen. 9, Charlie Isaacs. 10, Keith Page. That was Class 10. Class 11, in the market goat side, you're entering the ring right now. Class 11, entering the ring. Okay, when Class 11 on the market goat side goes in the ring, we're going to line up those first and seconds and thirds for middleweight division champion winner. Make up area, please. Middleweight division, make up area, please. So Class 11 just entered the ring in the market goat side. Class 11, last class of the middleweights. So we got a lot of updates going on in the sheep and the goat show today. So the Showman app, you got to refresh that Showman app. When you refresh it, it will be current. So don't go by the trailer. Go to the Showman app, refresh it, and then the classes will be correct. So that would help us out a lot. Thank you very much. On the breeding youth side, we're in Class 11 right now. Breeding youth side, we're in Class 11. Class 12, makeup area, check in, please. Class 12, check in, please.
This class is really, really deep from a quality standpoint the whole way down through. And I think, there's some similarities in these sheep, but I think the two best ones are just a little bit different in terms of what they represent. And I think at the end of the day, kind of sticking to your guns and what you do, I think this one that wins is just the hardest to replicate and the hardest to make. Young lady, when she isn't fighting and pulling back and gets this one stuck and propped from the side, her forearms ginormous, her chest is a country mile wide. She runs right uphill. Her neck's skinny. Her back's flat. She's fresh and awesome in terms of her touch and her tone. Where she's got the major advantage is, to me, she's longer in terms of her hip. She's more agile and athletic in terms of the way her hind leg hits the surface, and I think is just a shot farther reaching and neater looking. I think a very, very nice one to go ahead and win this particular class. This year right here, when the young lady gets her propped up from the side, she can paint a really, really good picture and rival our class winner in terms of some of the attributes that I really like in terms of forearm, front foot, and feature, and look up front. I think for me, though, as you get right on top of these ewes, she's not just as big and broad and expressive right out of the backside of her blade and her shoulder. She's just a shot flatter in terms of the way her rib cage is put together. She's shorter, rounder out of her hip, and those things will correlate to her hind leg just not hitting the surface as good. If we can lengthen this ewe out in terms of her hip, make her hind leg more agile, and then I think it gets really, really close, and we could sit out here all day and discuss them, but I think that top pair is wickedly, wickedly good, but at the same time, they're just really, really different. I think after this, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, I think all those sheep have a tremendous amount of quality, and depending on your priorities, could work up into a particular class. I thought this sheep probably just grew on me the longer we're out here. Young lady gets her stuck and propped from the side. She's fresh, awesome textured, rolled up in terms of her back shape. She's neat in terms of her design. I thought maybe just not as wild, not as out there as the ones directly in front of her. Maybe just a little deeper there to the base of her sternum and chest, just a shout more open right there at the front side of her blade. But I had a really, really nice sheep there to go ahead and sit in third. This sheep here in fourth has got the big Clydesdale feet down low. She got the furry ears. She got the big back and the round body. She kind of battles and fights some of the same things that I thought were a problem in this particular class in terms of structure and skeleton. She's too short out of her hip. Will kick her tail head up. Just doesn't handle her hind leg with enough authority and agility. And then at the same time, she's probably just a shot deeper, just a shot plainer out front. Young man sheep that's going to round out this particular top 5. I thought tremendous in terms of her shape, round in terms of her body, just needs a shot more at the seat of her pants, need to make her just a shot taller shoulder. I thought sheep on down the line were really, really good. Young man sheep right here is tremendous in terms of her shape, just her progression of width. I thought she just needed more feature. Again, to study that one from the top side of her chine to the base of her chest. I thought she got just a little bit deep. Told the young mans, I think times you get really, really good views of that particular ewe. She'll get just a little deep too, get a little washed out there in terms of her loin. Told the young man right here coming next, this thing from the side's picturesque and beautiful. At the end of the day, she's just got to have more punch, got to have more power. Sheep on down the line just need to be changed in terms of look and build. Really good, really challenging class. If you guys would, give a nice round of applause.
Hey, thanks, Evan, on the Blackface cross breeding ewe side. Class winner, Sydney Brader. Second, Raina Johnson. Third, Tessa Henderson. Fourth, Baylor Hubbard. Fifth, Flint Kennedy. Sixth, Brock Embry. 7, Baylor Johnson. 8, Preston Bobbenmeyer. 9, Blaine Quiven. 10, Seth Wirt. And 11, Tori Zimmerman. That was Class 11. Class 12 and the U side is coming in the ring. Class 12. Class 13, makeup area, please check in. Breeding U side, Class 13, please check in. We're on Class 11 on the market weather side. That's the last class of the middleweight division. Everything under 100 pounds will fall into this class middleweight division. So Class 11, line your first, seconds, and thirds up for middleweight division. Market weather side. Thank you. Middleweight division, check in with Miss Pam over there. Middleweight goat show, market goat show, middleweight division. First, seconds, and thirds, please check in.
A nice class, and in my mind, a class that's rather interesting because each goat has a part or a piece that I like, and I wish a couple of these goats could be kind of mashed in together to make a kind of a super animal because I do think they're very, very good. To me, the goat that surfaces is just as sound and comfortable as any of them. That goat is really square-loined and really a big back, and with that goat is awesome in terms of just being attractive and high quality from the side. Is that goat just the deepest and swoopiest in terms of its lower belly, the roundest and most bold and opened up in terms of its forerib? No, he's not. But that goat is very, very high quality. I like that goat quite a bit. Now, if we want to talk about maybe being just a little rounder body, being a little deeper and sappier in terms of our rear rib, the goat in second is the one that we'd like. That goat is awesome in terms of the way that he's assembled from a body design standpoint. I like that goat in terms of his proportions and balance, where the other one is maybe a little freakier. I think this guy's a little safer. To me, in relation, this goat wanted to maybe fight you a little bit at the end. He wanted to tiptoe around a little bit more in terms of his ankle. He's not just as dense in terms of his lower feature or as aggressive in terms of his shape and touch, but that's a really round-bodied goat that has the right kind of balance and symmetry there from the side. I like this goat, and initially I thought we had ourselves a game-time player because from a shape and cutability standpoint, he's maybe just as good as any of them. He is awesome in terms of his jump muscle. He's presented incredibly good. His necktie is really good out of the top side of his shoulder. For me, he needs to be relaxed about the angle of his blade and knee, and subsequently, that'll cause him to deviate out of the back side of his shoulder, and then with that, he has just a little extra set in terms of his hind leg. So though, again, I don't think he's unpractically sound, I just don't know if it's as aesthetically pleasing as a couple of the other ones, but that is a good goat, no doubt. This one right here, again, I think is a nice critter. That thing runs uphill. That thing has the right kind of image from the side. I got my hands on that goat, and he's probably just as plush or Tempur-Pedic-like in terms of his forerib. He's maybe just a little softer in terms of his back shape and maybe wants to funnel in terms of his pin bone, but sound, big-legged, comfortable kind of a goat that runs uphill. I like that goat in a lot of regards for that. The goat that's going to come out here next, I thought big-chested, wide skeleton critter that had the right kind of mass and dimension up high, a little deeper chested, a little bit flatter in terms of his front foot, not as dynamic in terms of his look, but man, big muscled kind of a critter, no doubt. This goat that comes out here next, again, big pin, big back individual that is awesome in terms of his foot size and his feature. For myself, he maybe wanted to get just a little lower at the point of his shoulder in motion. He wanted to rock forward there in terms of his knee and separate in terms of his loin. That goat has a lot of muscularity. This goat right here is similar, progressive in terms of his width and wedge. I like that goat's chest width and upper pin bone. I like that goat in terms of just being a genuine, shapely kind of an animal with that little frail feature, a little tighter in terms of his hock, maybe not just as coordinated from behind. Beautiful pattern kind of a critter, especially in terms of top line and head carriage. That goat is really arrogant and cocky in terms of the way that he ties his neck. For myself, that goat looks like he's just a little bit past his prime, and he feels that way too. I grab his back and it's shapely, and I work back to his loin. He's a little more peaked and dry in that regard. He's getting to be just a little cresty in terms of the backside of his neck, but that goat is awesome in terms of just being real flat backed. This goat's awesome caged and big legged. To me, a little round off either end of his skeleton. This one's awesome in terms of just being boxy and burly and opened up. To me, I read that goat to be just a little fatter. I read that goat to be just a little bit narrower in terms of the way that he travels away from me. This goat has some wacky, wild stuff going on. Tough skulled, big armed, really, really big legged kind of a critter. He's one to be too far forward in terms of his shoulder angle, and that'll cause him to deviate in terms of his back. And this goat's awesome presented. I mean, looks very, very good from a presentation and hair quality standpoint. For myself, as I stand in behind the lineup, that goat still gets a little bit inverted in terms of his shape, and I get my hands on him. I need him to meet me with just a bit more responsive in terms of his touch. But great class, high quality stock all the way through. Congrats to them.
Hey, Class 11 Market Weathers. Thank you, Mr. Nate, for those reasons. Class winner, Brooklyn Jaratowski. Second, Paisley White. Third, Taven Dubin. Fourth, Bella Campbell. Fifth, Emery Chamberlain. Now that means we're on to middleweight champion in the Market Goat Show. Middleweight champion, pay attention here. Champions might be born. Showing Class 12 on the breeding ewe side. Class 12 is in the ring. Class 13 makeup area, please check in. Class 8 market weather coming in the ring for us in this order. Cooper Maxwell is going to be your Class 8 winner. Jalen Miner second. Class number 9, Ariana Lundgren's first. Bristol Lesky was second. Class 10 market weather, Brock Martvet was first, and Bennett Gordon was second. And then our last class in that middleweight division, Brooklyn Jaratowski and Paisley Wider, first and second class. So we're going to line some first and seconds up out here. Kinsey's got you coming in the right order. We're going to have a really nice middleweight division market weather show on the goat side. Hey, thanks for some of the ring help. We got a lot of LCCC interns been helping us for the last 2 weeks. Brian Kosk, Kinsey Freeman. Thank you for your extra support. Takes a lot of work to run one of these shows, and we'd like to try to do our very best to make sure we get them run right. Hey, Miss Pam Freeman is going to line up that Class 12 market weather goats. Class 12, check-in makeup area, please. Mr. Nate Brookshire, middleweight market goat division. Nate.
Man, we've had a lot of fun through our previous divisions and our market does, and our Division 1 D2 comes out here and speaks for itself, really. I mean, the front lineup of these things is absolutely incredible. Each one of these classes brought us depth of quality as well as, just a really standout class winner. And then with that, I think you guys should all, as people who have attended the show and as showmen, just be incredibly, incredibly proud of what D2 is representing currently. Again, going to let you know my thought process. Man, I said some big-time things about the GOAT that won our Class 1 because I believe it. He is sound. He is big-backed. He is up to code in terms of his touch and tone. His presentation is absolutely awesome. I thought he was a dominant class winner within a very deep class as well, and I still think that he looks very, very special out here. Is that GOAT just the biggest in terms of his foot size and feature? Does he blend just perfectly in terms of his hip-loin junction? No, but those are being, again, very, very critical of a GOAT that is absolutely Very, very good critter. The one that was second in that class was awesome in terms of his depth of belly. I thought that goat was great in terms of just his shape. I didn't know if that goat was just his big pin. The goat on the other side of that, big and juicy in terms of his pin bone. To me, I read him just a little bit open at the point of his shoulder and not as unique in terms of his look. The two goats out of class 2, man, I thought the one that won that class was presented incredibly good. I mean, talk about just a big, fresh shape, a short-bladed goat that is so sound in terms of lower skeleton flexibility. I thought the goat that was second in that class, I thought was just absolutely burly caged and really opened up and had the advantage in terms of length of hip and depth of body. I guess if I get critical on our class winner right here, that goat is maybe not just as opened up, maybe not just as wide and wacky from a muscularity standpoint, but again, I think that goat looks incredibly special. And then we got into class 3, and man, I felt for some of the people that were 3, 4, and 5 in that class, because I truly believe that if the cookie crumbled a little differently, they could have had a pretty nice day today. The goat that wins this class is as wide and opened up as we've seen today, and yet still as sound and comfortable as any of them. And he runs her uphill. He is beautifully proportional. That goat is very good. And the one that's second, we talked about our class winner being good looking. The one that's second is actually shorter bladed and maybe just a little longer and skinnier necked, and that thing probably has just the advantage in terms of length of body even. I know we talk about length of body negatively, but he still maintains that. Was he just as big and burly in terms of his muscle? Was he just as deep and sappy in terms of his flank? No, he wasn't, but those were good goats. And then our last class, probably just a little more pick and choose on that class, but to me, the sound skeleton goat who was the best loined and yet still fresh and ran uphill, kind of sorted his way up in my mind, and he was shown to the nines as well. The goat that was second in that class, better in terms of his depth of rib, a little rounder in terms of his forerib, and so I thought that goat was really good as well. I don't know what's going to come out here in Division 3. All I can tell you is what was out here in Division 1. We talked about keeping 3 back. I'm actually going to keep 4 out of this division, and I'm going to rank them, as we get out here and start shaking hands. But you guys should be incredibly proud. These goats out here were representative goats that in my mind, can play just about anywhere. And so be pumped up. We're in the great state of Wyoming right now, the Cheyenne Livestock Expo. And if your blood's not pumping up right now just a little bit, then you and I probably aren't on the same wavelength. These ones out here are legit. Congratulate these guys with a big round of applause. We'll get you guys some champions.
Champion middleweight goat, third class there, Brock Mortved. Congratulations, Brock, champion middleweight. Reserve goes to second in that class, Bennett Gordon, reserve.
I think this class is tough, and I think this top 4 is very interesting. I'll kind of tell you where my head's at. I thought the one that won needed to win, and then I thought after that it was, what do I do? Do I say the one in third's got enough muscle? This one here in second, do I say that's in motion? Her blade is just right. The one in fourth, she's absolutely whacked out and wild looking from the side. Is she sound enough? Is that one just too short coupled and round out of her hip? And so it's challenging. We're going to break them down so you guys know where I'm at. I think this one's got to win this particular class. And I get that she's not perfect, but propped up from the side, that is a stout, featured, flat back, bold-bodied, muscular one. And when you ask her to get out and go in motion, she's loose constructed in terms of the way she's built down low. She's got the right angle to her blade and knee. She's the most appropriate in terms of her length of hip set to her hind leg and range of motion. She could be just a nickel taller shouldered, and I think if we maybe freshened her up a little bit, she would look that way. I don't think she's fat or chubby by any means, but I think her being really raw and immature may accentuate her front end a little bit, but I think that's getting really critical on one that I thought was a dominant winner in this particular class. That was really tough. I thought this one was the next closest one to resembling her in terms of just chest width, feature, body shape, progression of width, and muscle up high. For me, though, we asked these things to get out and go in motion. think she'll want to rock too far forward in terms of her blade, and then she'll get just a shot more open in terms of her blade. But I think a really, really high quality one to sit there in second. Question mark on the 1 and 3. She's the problem child. As if she's just got enough, because she's absolutely drop dead gorgeous from the side. Presented to the 9s, short bladed, tall shouldered, skinny necked, flat back, sound structured. I just got to ask myself, is there just enough there as we get right here to play with the runs directly in front of them? And I thought for a sheep that's just as attractive, and I've got a question if she's got enough. I want to lengthen her out in terms of her hip, maybe more appropriate in terms of the way that her skeleton's built. But I thought, again, absolutely beautiful. Just got to have a shot more punch. Just got to have just more power. Very, very interesting sheep right here. And another one that I think is a problem child, because I think, again, her elevation, just where her neck ties at the apex of her blade's unique. Her sternum placement and where it's set within to her throat latch and her underlying progression is absolutely incredible. And she's presented to a 9. There's not a hair out of place on her. Young man absolutely shows the wheels off of her. To me, she's just a little short coupled. She'll get just a little short round out of her hip and isn't just as athletic or mobile in my mind as the 3 in front of them. But again, I think very interesting sheep to sit right there into 4th. Pair of young ladies here in 5th. You bring one that I think's basics are awesome. Stout featured, loose built, extremely sound and flexible, big backed and round bodied in this particular class. Just a little deep, just a little plain, but had a really, really good class the whole way through. 1 and 6 is one that I really liked. I thought just needed to be shallower chested and looser built in terms of her hind leg. I thought sheep on down the line need to be changed in terms of their structure, changed in terms of width and muscularity. If you guys would, give them a really nice round of applause. That was a really, really good class.
Yeah, thanks, Evan, for those reasons on Class 12 in your breeding news show. That was Class 12. Class 13's getting ready to come in the ring. Hey, we've got a little bit of plan coming up here. We're going to select your champion market goat and your supreme champion ewe. We're going to take pictures. So while we're taking pictures, it'll be a half hour after the last one, and then Goat Showmanship, Senior Goat Showmanship will start a half hour after the rings are empty. We'll show both of those classes. There's 2 breaks of that Senior Goat Showmanship. We'll show those. When that's completed, we will start the the sheep showmanship side. So there will be no conflict, we don't think, for anybody throughout the whole day. So Goat Showmanship will start. Seniors first. And then we'll follow it up with the sheep showmanship. After that one's over, we're going to go senior, intermediate, junior, and beginner. Let's refresh that middleweight market weather division. Champion, Brock Markvet. Reserve, Bandit Gordon. Third's going to go to that Class 8 winner, Cooper Maxwell. And 4th goes to Ariana Lundgren. There was 4 coming back from that middleweight and the goat market show. Thank you. Well, again, so the goat showmanship is going to be first. When the senior division is done, we will start the senior division of the sheep showmanship. So goats first, sheep second, but they're both going to run kind of simultaneously. We got Class 13 in the ring in the Breed News show, and we have Class 12 in the ring in the Market Weather show. So if you're in the class following them, check in, please. Hey, we want to thank all the sheep and goat committee for helping us throughout the year. They do a lot of planning, try to make sure stuff runs smooth. Dylan Freeman, chairman. Jason Simpson, Justin Nathan, Clay Elliott, Tyson Rule, Braxton Olsen, Bobby Strecker, Sydney Beatty, Chase Taylor, Mike Frink, Pam Freeman.
Good way to start Division 3, and a pair of goats up here that contrast each other and what they represent. And the longer I make these things get out and go, the more comfortable I am with my class winner. That goat is bar none the most athletic, presented incredibly well, and yet fresh, up to code from a touch and tone standpoint, proportional and balanced, and yet long-necked and attractive there from the side. Great way to get us kicked off in this new division, no doubt. Goat that's going to come out here in second, stouter in terms of his skull, wider skeleton, more masculine kind of a goat. And when I initially handled him over here, I thought kind of a dominant class winner, because his back, his loin, and his progression ahead of a big, broad upper hip are very good. I get that guy out and going. He's a little short cannoned up front and want to get a little bit coarser about the point of his shoulder, and then he wants to get a little bit sharper about his hock and tighter about his ankle. If that goat gets out and goes with the same kind of flex as our class winner, man, then we're cooking with grease. Right now, that's a very good goat for second. That is wide skeletoned and big backed. No doubt the goat that's going to come out here in 3 probably has just a little extra extension in relation to the goat that's second. He's a little taller at the point of his shoulder. He's a little longer necked, and his hip is actually just a little longer as well. With that, he's maybe not just as big backed or square loined. He too has just a little extra set there to his hock. And so I thought if I was going to get critical on my one that goes in second, I had to get critical on him there as well. Again, I think that goat just is a little extra set of hock away from being just a little bit more competitive. This goat right here is beautifully proportional and great balance. Again, I can tell you that this goat probably 30 days ago probably looked pretty sporty, because that goat runs uphill. He's awesome in terms of his skeleton. That goat's awesome in terms of the way that he manages his top line. To me, he's a little deep at the base of his chest. He's a little soft in terms of his touch. He's a little plain about his body wall. But that goat, again, it just covers the basic fundamentals of market livestock really well. This goat, more up to code in terms of his shape. That goat is aggressive in terms of his handle. I prefer this goat significantly in terms of his loin over the 2 goats ahead of him. That goat is presented very well. Beautiful skinned kind of a critter, and I can tell that there's the right kind of hydration occurring. To me, while I love the front 2/3 of that goat, get to the rear third, and I want to open him up about his pin bow, and I want to make him more secure in terms of his hind leg. He wants to get just a little stabby and a little wobbly on me, but I do think that he is a very good goat as well. This goat has an advantage in terms of extension, size, and scale, and I like that. That goat still remains really good in terms of a crisp, fresh, aggressive shape. I get that guy going. He wants to rock forward about the angle of his blade. He wants to give up the underlying balance that we have when we got him driving. I'm just more comfortable with him on down the line. This goat's really sound and comfortable, needs more punch, needs more power. That goat's beautiful cage, needs more genuine muscularity to keep his back up. That goat right there is really good from a cutability standpoint. And again, that goat is really lean. To me, he needs to have just a little bit more body composition that'll allow him to open up in terms of his cage, but I think the fundamentals are all very good there. Congratulations to those exhibitors. It's been a very good class to get our division kicked off.
Hey, thanks, Nate, on that Class 12 reasons. Class winner, Talissa Tangen. Second, Zane Richardson. Third, Braden Head. Fourth, Paisley White. Fifth, Ella Cook. Sixth, Brody Shreve. 7, Taylor Engel. 8, Keith Page. 9, Stockton Musgrove. That was our class placings for Class 12 market weathers. Class 13, your class should be going in the ring. That means Class 14 market weathers. Makeup area, please. Breeding you side. Class 13's in the ring. Class 14, makeup area, please. Remember, we're going to start that senior showmanship of the goats first. Senior showmanship's first. We'll finish senior showmanship on the goats before we start on senior showmanship of the sheep. Hey, I got a chance for more sponsors. We got more sponsors. We'd like to thank Grow Business Solutions, Miranda Simpson at State Farm, Freeman Livestock, Freeman Law, Mandy Weber, Uncle Fred's, Showtimes, Ryan Mordved, Admiral Beverage Company, thank you for all your support. Class 13's in the ring on the market weather side. Class 13 on a Blackface Cross U breeding side. Class 14 either side, be in the makeup area, please. Hey, we're trying to make this a pleasant experience for everybody. We got one showman in the sheep rings that's going to come over to the goat side for us, so we're going to wait on them. We'd like to make it a pleasant experience for everybody. That's why that showmanship is going to be broke out by that, so we don't have to do that in showmanship. So give us 1 second here. We're going to have a nice show today.
That's a very logical place to start. Over here in our U-ring on this particular class, the young man sheep here up front. I thought initial impression as that one came into the gate, and then the longer we're out here, to me, she is the best built, best proportioned one that still maintains the right kind of comfort and flexibility. I mean, she is tall-shouldered. She is waspy looking up front. She's neat in terms of her underline, and I love her looseness of build in terms of her angles, just her flex and her comfort. I thought still good in terms of shape. She's not the most overwhelming one we've seen. She's not the most overwhelming one in this particular class as you step right in here. But again, I think everything fits within her skeleton, and I thought a very, very logical place to start. This sheep right here, I think, has got some really interesting pieces and intangibles. I thought that was a logical second in my particular mindset of another one that hit me really hard initially as they come right into the gate. I think propped up from the side is where she's got the definite advantage over the 1 and 3rd. I think she's stouter in terms of forearm and feature down low. She runs uphill. She gives you a neater look. I think balances up just a shot better from the side. I thought in relation to her class winner, we set them and go in motion. She'll roll out of her hip a little bit. I didn't maybe think her underline progression was nearly as good, but I thought a really, really high quality one to go ahead and sit right there in second. Ultra stout, muscular one. It's going to sit here in 3. She is big back. She's round bodied. She's big pin. Love her in terms of her feature down low. We just got to make that one a shot shallower, tighten her there at the point of her shoulder, and then level her out. She want to get just a little high there in terms of her tail head, in terms of his shape and composition, bulk, width, and muscle. That's a very, very nice sheep to sit there in 3. This sheep grew on me, and I think if her underlying quality was just a little bit better, she may be able to work up in this particular class. She's beautiful to look at from the side, flat-backed and neat in terms of her build and her balance. But again, got to settle that one down in terms of her flank, give her just a shot more power as we step around the backside of them. This one here in 5 is got as thin a skin, I think, as anything that's come to the ring to this particular point. She is jet level down her back. She's tremendous in terms of her shape and just her composition. The way she handles right on the backside of her blade and her shoulder. For me, though, we get right here. She's the flattest in terms of her pin and just her stifle. And I wish just had just a shot more feature in terms of actual substance of bone and foot down low to compete in this particular class. And that's a really good sheep on down the line. A lot of these are stout, opened up, and muscular. Just need to be changed in terms of build and balance and flexibility. If you guys would, give them a really nice round of applause.
Hey, thanks, Evan. That was Class 13 Blackface Crossbreeding Ewes. Baylor Johnson's a class winner. Bella Campbell was 2nd. Tyler Eddington 3rd. 4th, Jillian Muntz. 5th, Brock Embry. 6th, Elena Barger. 7, LCCC Show Team. 8, Kagan Karshner. 9th, Nora Joslin. 10th, London Almer. 11, Emerson Ross, and 12, Tayton Wyckoff. That was Class 13. Hey, Class 14's coming in the ring for Evan now. Class 14. So we're showing at Class 13 on the market weather side. Class 13's showing right now. Class 14, be ready, please. So we still have a few conflicts coming up here. We're trying to make it great for these exhibitors. So bear with us. We're going to have a good show today. Market Weather Show, Class 14 to the market makeup area, please. Class 14, Market Weathers, please check in at the makeup area. That means Class 15 in the Breeding and Ewes Show, check in at the makeup area. Class 15, please. Hey, Mr. Nate Brookshire is pulling our Class 13 market weathers out. And even as we speak, Evan's pulling out our Class 14 of the Blackface cross breeding ewes. We like to see all the excitement ringside and in the stands. You know, this is all going national with Ringside Live. So everybody in the nation knows what's going on here today. We do appreciate that. Ringside Live. And if you go to Cheyenne Livestock Expo website, it's also streamed there. So it's the same stream. So thank you, Ringside Live. Hey, if you're not very techie here, Laddie said there's banners on the outside of the ring that's got the QR code. If you scan that, it'll take you right there. So that's good for me to know because I'm just a little bit slow in that department. So scan those and that'll take you right there. Ringside Live. Hey, Class 14 Market Weathers, 0256, Trallin Sumner. Makeup area, please. 0256, Trallin Sumner.
Man, just another incredibly deep and high quality class. And again, we talked about earlier what classes you maybe wanted to be in or didn't want to be in. I think this is that class for this division. This goat that wins does so very quickly and very handily in my mind. He is as unique of a critter from an outline standpoint as we've seen all day. Again, gigundous in terms of his foot size and his feature, up to code in terms of his back shape. And then what's so unique about him is he is short-bladed, shallow, high-tying, and long and level and comfortable in terms of the top side of his hip, as we have seen so far. Again, a goat that I am very excited to see back out here in the drive. I think that goat is incredibly high quality. It gets close between 2 and 3 in my mind. For me, I'll side with the taller-shouldered goat who's squarer in terms of his chest and knee. That allows for his skeletal width to better progress out of the backside of his shoulder with a more aggressive shape. That goat is awesome just in terms of his touch and his handle and his loin. I like that goat a bunch, actually, and most of the times I'd have been pumped up to use this guy as a class winner. Unfortunately, in relation to the goat ahead of us, we're a little steeper at the top side of our rump. We have just a little extra set there to our hock, but man, that's being incredibly critical. I'm a big fan of this goat, so be pumped up for that. I think that goat is good. This goat has the advantage in terms of foot size, fur, and feature in relation to this goat, and that goat's jump muscle is absolutely gigundous. He is big-backed. He has a great turn to his lower oopty shape into his stifle. To me, he is just a little plainer at about the base of his shoulder. He has just a little extra chest in relation to the two ahead of him. Again, that's being real critical. I love the goat that comes out here in fourth from an athleticism standpoint. He is flat-backed. He is comfortable in terms of his movement. He has an advantage just in terms of extension, and then one of the shorter-reared goats as well. Unfortunately, he came out here with some monsters from a muscularity and power standpoint. He just can't keep up. His forerib's a little flatter. He's a little narrower there in terms of his pin bone. He needs to leave me with just a bit more clearance there in terms of his hock. But man, really sound, really good looking kind of a goat. This goat on the standstill, I'm all in on. A big burly shaped goat that runs uphill. I set that guy in motion. He'll drop to the base of his chest and get just a little more rigid from behind. But that goat is awesome from a skin and texture standpoint. And then standing there, I think he's a real contender. This goat is awesome in terms of his look and his lines and his levelness. Didn't have the same kind of punch. Didn't have the same kind of upper pin bone. This goat right here is big and burly and massive. I love that goat in terms of his muscularity. And that young man gets as much drive and push out of him as any of them. With that goat's a little round in terms of his shoulder. He's a little thick-necked. That goat's a little coarse up front for myself. But man, lots of power, lots of muscularity. This goat's cool looking. Needs more flank, needs more foot size, needs more feature. But man, a cool looking kind of a critter. Big backed, awesome shaped, great terminal kind of a goat. To me, he reads just a little plain. He wants to pull his hind leg underneath of himself. He gets a little round to the top side of his hip. But man, a goat that's awesome just in terms of his shape. This goat right here is beautiful from a presentation standpoint. I love the way his neck ties out of the top side of his shoulder. I like that goat in terms of his skeleton. Again, just a little plainer in terms of his touch out of the back side of his shoulder. Young lady's doing a great job getting that one presented, though. Give a big round of applause to that group.
Really good class here, and I think a fun class to evaluate and talk over with you guys. Because I think all three of these that are here on the upper end of things are really good. But I think, again, all of them are kind of different. I'm real comfortable with the one that we're going to go ahead and land on. To me, I think she encompasses the two directly behind her to the one package. This one propped up from the side. She just paints an awesome picture. She runs straight uphill. She is tall-shouldered. She's good in terms of her underline progression. She's skinny-necked. Awesome in terms of her shape and her tone, the roundness there to her body, progressiveness there to in terms of width, and I still think maintains her hind leg and front skeleton very well in motion. Problem child's probably the one sitting here in 2, and what do you do? Because man, she is really bold, really stout, and really opened up. That's a big back, a round-bodied one that's ginormous in terms of her pin. She's very good in terms of just the shape she's got there to her lower leg, and for one that's got the moderation in the bulk, I think her lower skeleton's maybe as good as any in terms of just flex and comfort. For me, though, I think we just got to make her taller shouldered and just fresher and longer about her neck. But again, I think very high quality. One here coming in third, I just want to put a blindfold on. It's tremendous in terms of her shape and her touch and tone. Really big and expressive out of the backside of her blade and shoulder. She is ginormous in terms of her upper hip and her pin set. I think for me, though, in relation to the two directly in front of them, when we ask these things to giddy up and go in motion, I don't think she handles her knee quite well, and then she'll want to get just a little jabby, just a little off in terms of the way her hind leg hits the surface. But again, tremendous shape, tremendous power, tremendous in terms of just upper hip and pin set. Just wish that one was just a shot sounder when we asked them to get out and go. This sheep really grew on me the longer we're out here. Nothing really crazy about her, but I think her basics are really good. I think her top line balance, her underline symmetry are really good. She's sound and she's flexible. Maybe just didn't have the wow, the ones in front of her. Maybe just wasn't as just expressive and as rolled up in terms of shape. I think basic build, flex, and comfort are really, really good. Another one here in 5, beautiful up front, tall-shouldered, skinny necked, awesome shaped, and really good body. Got to strengthen that one in terms of her loin, just make her balance up a shout better right there to the base of her underline. But again, really good class. I like her class runner up top, a good deal. If you guys would, give a nice round of applause.
Hey, that was class 14 on the Blackface crossbreeding U side. That was class 14. We're waiting for that Showman. Then we're going to show class 14 on the Market Weather Goat show side. Class 14's getting ready to come in the ring. Hey, let's mark that class 14 down like this. Class winner, TJ Rumsey. Second, Elizabeth Albrecht. Third, Cassani Croy. Fourth, Jory Maxson. Fifth, Tegan Johnson. Sixth, Kaylee Eddington. 7, Addie Ruckstuhl. 8, LCCC Show Team. 9, Laramie Sexton. 10, Leah Lambert. That was class 14. Class 15's in the ring. You know what? After class 15 on the breeding sheep side, we're going to show for a champion Blackface cross. So line up those first, seconds, and thirds in the Blackface cross side. We're showing class 14 in the Market Weathers. That means class 15. Please check in the makeup area, please. Class 15, Market Weather side on the goats. Hey, we're going to be taking some pictures here with Legacy Livestock images after the conclusion of the breeding sheep show and the Market Weather goat show. And after, we're going to wait about a half hour. Then we're going to go senior goat showmanship. At the completion of that, we're going to be showing 2 rings at the same time. Senior sheep showmanship will start, and then intermediate goats at the same time. So it looks like our next class on the breeding ewe side, champion Blackface cross breeding ewe. Class winners, seconds and thirds, be ready, please. It's getting that time of the day where it's starting to heat up. We've got all the great ones starting to come in the ring. You know, we've had animals at the Cheyenne Livestock Expo, exhibited from 22 states and Canada. So that kind of makes us glad to have people coming so far away, and we appreciate everybody that comes to the Cheyenne Livestock Expo. We're getting ready for that top 5 in the Class 14 Market Weather Show. Top 5's coming to us.
Maybe as challenging of a top pair decision as we've had so far. And man, this division has been really, really good. These two goats, I feel like, are going to be, one of a pair of goats that are going to stand out in that division. I do think there's another class winner, I think, that'll kind of fit in with this one. But I'm feeling very, very excited for the two young people in front of me. If you wanted to switch these goats up a little bit, I could totally understand it. But for myself, the tall-shouldered, short-bladed one who's longer and about his neck, more unique about his front end assembly and more aggressive in terms of the shape out of the backside of his shoulder, while being just a little wedgier and boxier and still having the edge in terms of hind leg utilization. That guy right there gets me fired up. He gets me turned on. I am pumped up about that goat coming back out here. If you wanted to come out here and say, well, Brookshire, the one that comes out here in second, is probably just a little more relaxed in terms of his knee. He's maybe just a little square in terms of his chest width as he comes directly at me. He's just as burly and just as opened up and probably has just a little bit more in terms of the seat of his pants. I would definitely agree with you. For myself, he's a little crestier in terms of his neck. He's a little more open up at the point of his shoulder. He's not as uniquely shallow in terms of the base of his chest. But young lady, I'd still be pretty pumped up. That is a very, very high caliber critter with a tremendous amount of rib shape, and yet still that goat has a very proportional, balanced look there from the side. I do think it gets close between 3 and 4. I sided with the extra mass and burliness of the goat that's going to be here in third. He's better in the turn to his upper cage. He's bolder about the upper portion of his hip, and he's more dimensional. down into his lower stifle? Is he just as unique and shallow in terms of his chest as those on either side of him? Really, he's not. But man, that goat has a lot of terminal merit, and that goat still has a very, very good look there from the side. Unfortunately, he just came in here with some stallions. This goat right here on the standstill, man, I think that goat is special. He is high tying, he's short bladed, he's tall shouldered, fit to the nines. His shape and touch are absolutely awesome. Again, I want to pull that goat down in terms of his rear rib ever so slightly, and as I compare him to those ahead of him, he just doesn't have the same kind of punch or Arnold-like finesse from a muscularity standpoint as those ahead of him. But man, that's a good goat. This goat right here, punchy, punchy, punchy. That dude is a bodybuilder. He comes out here and he is just an absolute man in terms of when I get my hands on him. Unfortunately, like a bodybuilder, I want these things to come out here and run like Usain Bolt, and he doesn't hit me in that same regard. But man, that is a big muscled kind of a goat that has the right goat right here, man. I get on the top side of this thing's skeleton, and I'm very appreciative of him. Really round and robust in terms of his cage. His progression of width is awesome. He's big-legged. He's stout-featured. He's a little open at the point of his shoulder. He's a little past prime in terms of his body wall. As I reach down there, he's just a little plush in that regard. But man, that is a nice goat. This goat right here, sound and comfortable. I need him to be better out of the backside of his shoulder. He gets just a little weaker, a little more peaked there. I need that goat to be just a little stronger because he has some unique in terms of underlying quality. He has uniqueness in terms of rear skeletal flexibility. I just need that guy to be better in terms of his shape up high. This goat, I thought as I compared him to the goat that's going to round us out, probably had just a little more progression of width. His loin is square. His pin bone is bigger. Maybe not just as aggressive in terms of his back shape. Maybe leaves me just a little bit narrower. This goat is unique because he's one of the goats that's going to round out our class that has legitimate touch. He is fresh and hydrated, and so, young man, my hat's off to you for that. He maybe is just a little bit off in terms of lower skeletal quality that I'm looking for, but man, that goat's touch is very, very good. Congratulations to that class. Excited to see the two of them out here again.
Last class over here on our commercial use side, and I think a really, really good class. And I think the one that wins, again, I think is a logical place in my mind to start. I think she encompasses the right build, the right balance, and she runs right uphill for a big heavyweight. She's skinny-necked and neat-headed, awesome in terms of her shape and just progression of width. That's a very, very good place to start. One here in second, maybe just a shot neater in terms of underline progression. That's probably where I changed my class winner. If we could shave just a half an inch right there off the base of her sternum, I think it's a no-brainer. This one paints a beautiful picture from the side. She's got the big white feature everybody's after. She runs uphill. She's tall-shouldered. She's flat-backed. One that's still really fresh and youthful through the front portion of her skeleton. You just get right here. She's got to be rounder-bodied. She's got to be more opened up in terms of her pin bone, but I thought a very, very attractive view. Paints the right kind of picture from the side. Young ladies here coming next. I love from this thing's loin forward. She is tall-shouldered, big form, beautiful underline, awesome shaped and round-bodied. For me, though, I just got to pry her open right there at the backside of her pin bone and just freshen her up right there at the heel of her loin. But a really, really nice sheep to sit there in 3. One coming here in 4. I think similar story. Really neat up front, tall-shouldered and skinny-necked and flat-backed. But again, just got to power her up. From the same token, I just thought she had to be just a shot rounder right there in terms of her cage and her body. Young ladies here, it's going to round now. It's a stout-featured, really good built one. She's just got to be just a little fresher, just a little shallower right there to the base of her chest and sternum. If you guys would, give a nice round of applause. Excited to get into our champion Blackface U-Drive.
Champion Blackface Cross breeding you. In the ring on the breeding you side, champion Blackface Cross. Hey, let's pay out that Class 14 market weather goat side. Kason Lane Newell, class winner. Elizabeth Albrecht, second. Hubert Richardson, third. Tegan Johnson, fourth. Traylon Summer, fifth. Sydney Brader, sixth. 7, Lily Steek. 8, Frankie Counts. 9, Stormy Lubers. 10th, Stockton Musgrove. Class 15 on the market weather side of the goat show is in the ring right now. And then we'll go heavyweight division champion. But we're on the Blackface Cross division champion on the breeding you side. Let's tell you who's for that champion Blackface Cross. Class 9, Taylor Tanner is first. Addison Tanner is second. Let's go to Class 10, Tessa Henderson. Carter Watson was second in that class. Class 11, class winner, Sydney Brader. Second, Raina Johnson. Class 12, Raina Johnson wins it. Carter Watson is second. Class 13, Baylor Johnson. Second goes to Bella Campbell, excuse me. Class 14, class winner, TJ Rumsey. Elizabeth Albrecht will be second in that class. In our final class, Dally Horrocks and Lakeland Rookstool will finish out those Blackface Cross breeding ewes. We're on for Blackface Cross champion right now on the breeding ewe side. Last class on the market weather side, class 15. Impressive lineup over here on the breeding ewe side. Champion, Blackface Cross, impressive lineup. Champion heavyweight on the market weather side. Please come to the makeup area. Check in with Kinsey. Champion heavyweight division, market weather side.
Arboretum Division champ.
We're on this Blackface. There's a lot of individuals out there, but you guys that won all those breed champions early on the breeding ewe side, please check in at the makeup area, please. All breed champions and reserves, please check in.
very good class in our heavyweight division, and me, and for myself, I thought the one that won or wins this class wins rather handily. He's the most up to code. He's the freshest in terms of his touch and his tone. He's sound. He's comfortable. I guess for myself, when I come to thinking about how I want to construct a piece of livestock, he's the one that I have the least amount of question marks on in this class. He runs uphill. His proportions are right. He's presented incredibly good, and then he's still aggressive in terms of his shape and his touch and his cutability. I think that's a great goat to get us kicked off. Congratulations to that young man. It gets deadly close between these two goats, and honestly, I think there's some showmanship differences. I think there's some composition differences as well. For myself, the goat who's leaner in terms of his body wall, fresher and more up to code in terms of his loin is the goat that's going to be second. I think that goat is naturally just a little bit bigger in terms of his foot size and his feature. I think he's a little square as they travel directly away from me in terms of his hind leg utilization, and then truly, I think he's just a little shallower at the base of his sternum. Is that goat perfect in terms of his front skeleton? No, he's not. Subsequently, he'll deviate out of the backside of his shoulder. He needs to be better in terms of his rear rib and flank. I see that, and that's where I love the goat that's going to come out here in two. He's deeper and sappier in terms of his rear rib. He's stronger out of the backside of his blade. That goat still maintains a heads-up, high-quality image there from the side. For myself, he's a little deeper in terms of the base of his chest. He can't match the same kind of foot size and feature. Ultimately, what gets him here stuck in third. As I watch that goat go directly away from me, his right hind will get a little searchy to the outside of his skeleton, just more comfortable with him here in three. I thought the goat that came out here in four had a lot of intrigue and a lot of uniqueness. Really square-loined, really big-backed, heavy-muscled kind of a critter. Again, as I compare him back to those ahead of him, when I set that goat into motion, and does he maintain his lower body symmetry the same kind of way? No, he doesn't. Is that goat just the longest and levelest hipped? No, he's not. But that goat is fresh, and his hide is awesome. I think that goat is still very up to code in terms of the way that he handles over his forerib. To me, just read a little round, maybe not as unique in terms of his underline. This goat right here, again, a goat that reads like he's got just an incredible feeding look. 50-gallon drum for a rib cage with the right kind of spread and mass up high. I set that guy into motion, though. He gets a little deeper. He's a little bit more plush in terms of his body wall. He's not just as aggressive in terms of his touch and his tone. And then as he goes directly away from me, I just want to give him just a little more strength there in terms of his hock as well. Wild-looking goat that I thought needed to be opened up in terms of his body. I thought that goat needed to have just a little bit more muscularity to play big ball with them boys up there. But I thought this goat was wild-looking from the side and awesome presented and shown to the nines. This goat right here has all the muscularity in the world. For myself, he was a little rigid in terms of his hind leg. He wasn't just as comfortable in terms of his front skeleton either. But man, I thought that goat had just a big ripped up back. This goat is wide and opened up in terms of his chest and really round rib. He's just a bit softer and more generic in terms of his handling quality. But man, wide skeleton, round body. This goat right here has big, gigundous legs. To me, he's a little deeper up front. He looks just a little bit more mature. I want to freshen that guy up and give him a bit more youthful look. This guy is really youthful in terms of his look, really juvenile. He's got that goosey head and neck carriage. He's got the height, the shoulder, needs yanked down in his flank. And as I watch that guy go directly away from me, he needs to be more Arnold-like in terms of his rear shot. This goat right here is awesome in terms of his cage and his rear depth of body. For myself, he looks just a little bit full and a little tanky. I wish that goat, we could just dial him back from a composition standpoint. But young lady, you're doing a fantastic job. A very nice critter to round us out. Congratulations to all those exhibitors. Big round of applause for them if you would.
As you get out here for a champion, our Blackface drive, I thought tremendously high quality. I thought fun and yet challenging division to go ahead and work through as I come back out here. Just a little different in terms of kinds and shapes and sizes, but at the end of the day, just try to manage each class and sort the ones at the top that hit you the hardest and you think represent the most amount of quality. My mind's really not made up just quite yet, so I'm going to go through and talk about them, positives and negatives, so you guys kind of know where my head's at on the ones that it's down to. One that wins Class 3, I think, is very, very far-reaching and has some very, very interesting pieces. Her chest is opened up and really, really burly. Her forearm's giant. She's tall-shouldered. Her neck's skinny. Her back's flat. She's tremendous in terms of her touch, her shape, right of the backside of her blade and shoulder is very, very impressive. The roundness there to her body is absolutely awesome. She's big and square in terms of her up-rip and pin set. The question mark on her is if she's just got enough right there in the seat of her pants. And again, if you say that she does, I think she's a definite contender. One that wins the next class is one that when the view is right, it is good as good gets. She is really, really stout down low. She is tremendous in terms of her body shape, in terms of feature. I think still progressive and right in terms of her width, fresh in terms of her composition. Talked about in class. I just question mark on her is just up front. Is that one just neat enough and good enough looking? She just fresh enough in terms of her sternum, her blade, and her breastplate, and does her front skeleton hold together good enough in motion? Again, if you say it does, I think she's an absolute contender. A young man's here out of the second to last class here in the black shirt. I really like this sheep. Propped up from the side, I think that is a lean, athletic, tall-shouldered, skinny-necked one that paints a really, really good picture in terms of his skeleton and design. She's probably as impressive in terms of her touch and tone as any of them within this particular drive. She is fresh and awesome in terms of her composition. I like those things. She's big pinned. She's got the extra flares. She's got the extra shape there to her stifle, her lower shape there to her lower glute muscle. I guess, again, critic on her is you ask her to get out and go. She'll want to get just a little round in terms of her hip, maybe throw her hind leg underneath of her just the shade. I thought really, really good. Being frank and honest, one that wins the last class. I didn't know she was going to be a contender. She comes back out here. And I'll be honest, she surprised me. I think this thing's a contender, and I think one that's really, really good. For a heavyweight, props up from the side. She runs right uphill. She's neat-headed. She is skinny-necked and flat-backed. You get right here, and that is a round body, a really, really big, powerful, opened up, kind of up-rip and pin set. He's tremendous in terms of just the flair she's got to her stifle and her glute muscle. Again, as we talked about in class, I think propped up from the side, she maintains her skeletal quality in terms of build and balance really, really good. When we ask her to get out and go in motion, she'll drop right there at the base of her chest and her sternum just a little bit. She'll get just a little round in terms of her hip. She'll want to jab there on her non-show side hind leg just a little bit. But man, right here, she's opened up. She's round-bodied. She paints a really, really good picture. Again, it's tough. There's not a perfect one, and they're all just a little bit different in terms of their types and their kinds. If you guys would, give them a nice round of applause. I'll give them one last look, and then we'll get you a champion in reserve.
Thank you, Evan McLean. He's going to go out and pick your champion, Blackface Cross Breeding You. Champion, Blackface Cross, Class 12. Rihanna Johnson, congratulations. Class 12. Reserve, Class 11, Sydney Brader. Congratulations, Sydney. Reserve, Blackface Division Cross. There we go. Let's pay him off in that Blackface Division. Champion, Rihanna Johnson. Reserve, Sydney Brader. Hey, we're gonna run a. Go ahead. We're gonna run a Supreme. We're gonna do heavyweight drive in the goat show right now, guys. Heavyweight drive in the market weather show, and then we're gonna come back and do a Supreme in the U show.
I got to make sure we get all of our breed champions.
All of our breed champions, please be lining up so we're ready. Heavyweight in the market weather show right now. Class 12 winner, Talissa Tangen. Second in that class goes to Zane Richardson. Next in the ring, we're going to go to the class winner, Class 13, Bennett Gordon. Followed by Baylor Johnson was second in that class. Class 14, Market Weather Goat Show. Kaysen Lane Newell wins the class winner. Second, Elizabeth Albrecht. And then our final class of the Market Goat Show for the heavyweight division, Dayton Mortved wins that class. Second, Sienna Donaldson. So as soon as Nate picks his champion heavyweight, we're going to do a Supreme in the U show, and then right after that, we're going to do a Supreme in the Market Weather show on the goat side. So where the heat's coming to us right now, pay attention. As it gets down here a little bit closer to the end and the heat's starting to fire up a little bit here, we'll just go one ring at a time, make sure everybody gets their due justice, because I tell you what, it's been a whale of a sheep show as well as long as a great goat show this morning. So we want to make sure Ringside Live All America gets to see what's going on here at the Cheyenne Livestock Expo. Remember, as soon as the champion Market Weather and the goat shows pictures taken, or excuse me, is selected, we're going to take pictures. But 30 minutes after that, we're going to do some senior showmanship on the goat side. 30 minutes for pictures, and then senior showmanship. 2 heats of that, and we'll pick our champion. Then we'll start showmanship also on the sheep side.
All right, exhibitors. So when we're getting to the end of these shows, we've got some doubled up exhibitors showing in both the rings for these drives. So that's why we're running the heavyweight drive over here in the goats. Then we're going to do the Supreme drive in the ewes, and then we'll come back and do the Supreme drive in the goats. So we'll make sure that once we're getting you the Supreme drive for the goats lined up, we'll go ahead and make those calls and everything. But because we got doubled up exhibitors, we're trying to make sure that they can show their animals.
Hey, just so you remember, there's a 30-minute wait after the conclusion of the Supreme Goat before we start goat showmanship, about a 30-minute wait, so be ready.
Each division that we've gone through has been absolutely incredible. And so, again, I apologize for my repetition of saying just how good your stock is. I apologize for saying how good each one of your class winners is, but it's truly how I feel, and so I'm really not that sorry about it. These goats out here in front of me are very, very high-end. And ultimately, I mean, I just made 2 of them walk. That ultimately comes down to what the decision is. But I do want to let each one of these exhibitors know kind of what my thought process is, because this division is incredibly, incredibly tough. Class 1 in Division 3 was a challenge because initially the goat on the far side from me right there hit me incredibly, incredibly hard. He was massive backed. He was really, really square loined. His pin bone was incredibly, incredibly broad. That goat hit me just a very, very high caliber way. He was a little low shouldered and he had a little extra set to his honk. He wasn't just as comfortable in terms of his mobility, but man, that goat was good. That's where this one won. Proportional, balanced, high quality kind of a critter who was sound and comfortable, presented incredibly well. As I throw this goat back out there, is that goat just an outlier in terms of muscularity? Is that goat Arnold-like as we get on top of him? No. Is that goat just the craziest looking one that I've ever seen? Absolutely not. But man, that goat, it just represents good, high caliber, high quality stock every day of the week and twice on Sunday. That's a good piece of livestock. Class 2, man, that was a quick and dominant win for this young man and his goat. That goat out here is bar none the soundest and the most comfortable and the most flexible, especially in terms of its front skeleton. That goat is a wild-looking rip who is just absolutely awesome in terms of his shape and his tone and his touch. I guess in relation to a couple others, is he just as manly? Is he just as opened up? Is he just as wide? That becomes the question mark. The goat that was second in that class had the advantage in terms of true width, true stoutness, true open burliness of body. He was a little round out of his shoulder. He wasn't nearly as level out of the top side of his hip, but he was good as well. Class 3 was tough because honestly, the goat that was second in that class is just a little bit longer reaching in terms of his front skeleton, but that's a massive, burly, opened up goat with a giant rear leg. Unfortunately, he read just a little deeper and a little more common. He wanted to deviate ever so slightly out of the back side of his shoulder. This class winner, man, he looked like $1 million. And man, that thing runs directly uphill. His underlying quality is spot on. He is absolutely incredibly high tying, and then his muscularity, his width, and his power are bar none. That allows me to label him as the source of power out here. Is he perfect in terms of the reach of his front skeleton? No, but more than good enough. But that was kind of my question mark on him. And then our last class winner, a goat that in my mind just checked so many boxes. And I hate saying that because I hate saying the word complete. I always think it borders the line of common and generic. That goat's really sound. He's really big backed, and yet he's still incredibly fresh relative to his size and weight, which is impressive to do. So, I think that goat is very good in that regard. The goat that was second in relation to our third was just a little shallower, a little square loined, a little more up to code in terms of its composition. Ultimately, it's a 2-horse race out here. There's a battle out there for third as well. I'm going to keep 3 of these bad boys back. But man, big round of applause. This is a very, very good stock here in front of us. Congratulate these exhibitors with a tremendous amount of applause.
Class 14, your champion of the heavyweight division, Cason Lane Newell. Reserve goes to Class 13, Bennett Gordon. We're going to go a little deeper here in this heavyweight division in the Market Goat Weather Show. Bird's going to go to second in that Class 14, Elizabeth Albrecht. We placed 3 in that heavyweight. Hey, Supreme Champion, breeding you on the sheep side. Evan McLean's going to sort them for us here. I think we're getting them lined up there. Let's enter the ring. Supreme Champion breeding you. We're going to sort out 5, and we're going to pay 5 Supreme Champion breeding you. So we're going to run these sheep in here the way we showed them this morning on the breeding you side. Supreme Champion. And we're going to start out with the white face, go to the speckle face, and then we're going to go the South Downs. Then we're going to go the naturals, and then the registered AOBs, and then the blackface crosses. We're going to line them up that way, and we're going to go 5 deep here, and we're going to take some pictures of those. Livestock, Legacy Livestock Imaging is going to snap some great photos over at the backdrop. We got banners galore to give to these top 5. We got a tumbler. We've got some of that Pine Bluffs distilling stuff for the parents of the Supremes today and the reserves. So thanks Pine Bluffs Distilling for helping us sponsor all that. But we got a lot of stuff coming your way. Supreme Champion breeding you in the ring right now. Thanks to Ringside Live for making sure everybody across America gets to see this. Champion Whiteface, Rihanna Johnson, Reserve, Addie Cortez. Speckleface Champion, Raina Johnson, Reserve, Madison Mancha. Southdown, Mackenzie Rule, second, Bryson Rookstool, excuse me. Natural. Adley Bird was champion. Elizabeth Albrecht was reserve. Registered AOB, Colburn Clausen was champion. Lackland Rookstool was reserve. Blackface Cross, Randy Johnson was champion. Reserve was Sydney Brader.
I know that we've still got Showmanship here later this evening, and I'll get to rejoin you tomorrow for your dough show. But I want to first thank Dylan and his crew and his family for the opportunity to come out here. It really has been a blast out of this particular point, and excited to work with young people through Showmanship here in a little bit, and really, really excited to get into your dough show there tomorrow. This deal has been really, really good. It's been tough, and it's been challenging in a few classes and divisions. But man, as these breed champions and reserves come back out here, I'm very, very pleased with what they represent, and I think we're going to go ahead and put together a really, really awesome kind of a top five. I think they've come back out here and they fit together extremely, extremely well. Been fun to sort alongside a good buddy and a good pal, Nate Brookshire. More than that, it's a guy I look up to. He is talented. He's judging them all, and I hope one day I can do just as much as he's done. It's good to not only have friends, but it's good to have people or friends that you look up to. I think that's what this deal is all about. Man, I can't thank all my buddies back home for everything that they do for me. When life gets tough and you get knocked down in the dirt, it's not only the people that'll pick you up, but it's the people that'll sit there and lay in the dirt with you. Nate's one of those guys. I know the boys are back home watching right now, and I'm sure the boys are picturing sows and getting them loaded into the crates, and so excited to get back home to that. I'm not going to go through and talk about each and every one of these. I'm not going to give some big fancy grand drive speech. I'm 24 years old. I've got about 0 words of wisdom I can give you. I'm just going to show you the 5 that I like in the order that I like them. And I felt today these things were really good, and I tried to describe them to you in the best manner that I could. Hey, they're not perfect, and I'll agree with you on that. But I think the 2 that we're going to land on are pretty far-reaching and can do a lot of very, very good things, not only within the show ring, but I think you take these ones home, they're going to do real, real good. I think our champion just looks like one I want to take home, flip over on the gurney and flush a lot, because I think she does a lot of things really, really good. If you guys would give not only these kids, but Dylan and his crew a nice round of applause, we're going to grab you a really good top 5.
Supreme champion breeding you. Raina Johnson, that was a champion Blackface cross. Evan McLean's going to pick his reserve Supreme champion right now. Champion Natty. Haley Bird, reserve overall. Overall, Sydney Brader comes out of that Blackface cross, 4th. That was 3rd overall. That was 3rd overall. Reserve Natty's going to be 4th overall. That's an Elizabeth Albrecht. Fifth overall, champion Southdown, Mackenzie Rule. Is that right? Yeah. Thank you much, Evan. Appreciate that. That was your Supreme Champion Top 5 breeding news. Junior Market Goat Show. Margaret Weathers. Champion lightweight coming to us, Zane Richards. Reserve lightweight, Brooklyn Jaratowski. Third in that, that was Grand and Reserve in the lightweights. Let's go to the middleweights. Champion, Brock Mortvet. Reserve, Bennett Gordon. Third goes to Cooper Maxwell. Fourth goes to Ariana Lundgren. That's the middleweight division. Heavyweight division. Kason Lane Newell is going to be your champion. Reserve heavyweight, Bennett Gordon. Third, Elizabeth Albrecht. So we're in on the Supreme Champion. We're going to go 5 deep over here in the Market Weather Show. 5 deep. We'll be ready to pay him out as soon as Nate makes his mind up here. He's got a lot of choices to make.